All right, there we go. Back in the flesh. Back in the flesh. What's going on, chat? Welcome back to the No Name Wrestling Podcast. Today,
Rip to any Panthers fans.
as always, we're going to be discussing, not as always, but as promised last week, we said we're going to be discussing peaks and longevities, about which one we think is more valuable between the two. We'll dive into some topics about that and some conversations that should be interesting. So, shout out to Nate, shout out to Lewis, who will not be here today. Two members of the podcast. So let me see. Chat. Almost Sapiens Rise. Yes, sir. As always, bro. As always. Only way to live life. Only way to live life. You're on mute, G.
So I saw the Oba Sapiens Rise.
Oba,
Anybody else have a problem with that finish?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It always gets tricky trying to book the end of a Monsters Championship reign. There's no perfect way that Oba was ever going to lose that title. So
Yeah.
I don't know
I do
what else
think
they
there is
could have
one,
done.
though.
I hear you, Jade. I hear you, Jade, but like that way wasn't the way to do it. In my
No.
opinion,
Yeah, maybe,
that
I
was
don't
not.
know.
Javon
But-
was the guy.
But even
Javon
when
was the
Cody
guy.
beat Roman, for instance, like even after he did, 3 Crossroads, still didn't feel like enough based on how they had booked Roman for so long, that's a different situation. But so did I expect Oba to kick out of that 3rd, 4th DDT? Yeah, absolutely I did. But I mean, I personally felt the shift in the tide lately. I think Oba's going to be on the main roster like lickety split. So
I don't know. To me, the only person that should have ended that reign was Javon. Like,
You know what that felt like?
This is the second. Oh, I think I know exactly what you're going to say, Mo. This is the second time I feel like they've given somebody else the win that clearly, like anybody with some common sense knows, the story was going the other way. Last time they did it, it was when they gave Sami Zayn the win over Gunther instead of Chad Gable.
Oh, not that. I was going to say something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
That makes
I feel
sense,
like
too.
that was like, well, common sense is dictating.
Yeah.
This is the guy.
ironic,
I think
it
you
comes
just-
in the same week that Javon Evans answers to Sami Zayn's open challenge. Banger match, by the way. Like
Yeah, I
that's
didn't even see
that's
that.
the best
Another-
match
another
on.
one.
That's the best match on Raw and SmackDown television in several months, maybe, much less weeks.
Wait, shout out them. This was Javon's title to win. Like, as much as Ricky Sanks, I think he's doing good. He didn't need this.
But can
And
you?
now
Can
it
you
just feels weird.
but who's going to be the bigger star in the long run? I mean,
Javon, actually, and I
Javon,
think it's
to be
disagree.
honest.
because
Disagree.
how old is Javon? Is he even 21 yet?
Nope.
How old is Ricky?
Wait, I
Not
think he
mu-
just turned 21.
Yeah, Ricky's like 35.
Yeah,
Is he 35? Well, still.
Yeah, I'm going.
But in
He was
WWE,
born in 04.
35 is
Oh
the
my
new
God.
21. I mean, look at all
which
their
is
champions right now.
which is fine, but I definitely think Javon is more likely to be their biggest star. But even then, I don't even think it's about that. I just think the story. Sometimes just the story, even though it might be obvious, it's the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Javon is literally the guy that should have been the one to be
No.
over. In my opinion.
you know what it feels like?
Even NXT,
You know what it feels
WWE is allergic to pulling the trigger at the right time. G. You and I both know that. So
It
I
feels
mean,
like if on the road to WrestleMania 40, LA Knight just all of a sudden beats Roman Reigns. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, like
instead of Cody Rhodes.
Like Ricky of all people, I was like,
I was like, okay,
Now,
I guess. But
do I necessarily like that it happened on No Mercy in September? No, I feel like Oba, when you have a reign like that, that's screaming to end at Stand and Deliver. But I mean, if Triple H looked at Shawn or whoever makes that decision and said, "I can't wait any longer, I got to have Oba Femi on SmackDown," then I mean that's the decision.
I mean,
you
I
end up with.
feel. I still
SmackDown needs
feel.
it, to be fair.
I mean, I still feel Javon's he's gonna get the NXT title at some point. So I mean, he's still
Oh yeah.
gonna be the champion. So maybe they
I
just
just don't
felt
think the win is gonna hit the same. That's all it is.
and maybe they felt wasn't the right time for him. I don't know. I mean, he'll probably be in NXT maybe another 2 years, I would say, because he's gonna have the run as champion. So I mean, I'm assuming he's gonna have the run as champion.
I think Ricky's going to have a relatively short reign. I don't think Ricky is long for NXT either, quite frankly.
Probably not. Probably not.
So Javon's probably going to be the next long NXT title reign.
Yeah, I'd probably say Javon might have.
They just wanted to give Ricky some juice before he comes to the main roster. So I mean, from that perspective, I can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't an awful decision. I don't know if it was the right one,
No.
but I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. NXT is kind of unpredictable sometimes with certain decisions and certain things, but they always have a trusting process, I believe, as far as moving forward to the end and
Yeah.
making sense. It all comes around together. Plus, they got this TNA invasion thing happening too, so it's just a bunch of different interesting aspects right now. As far as we don't really know what's going to go down and what's going to happen. So
Someone in chat asked if Oba needed to go to Raw or SmackDown. There's too much meat on Raw for Oba to go to Raw.
SmackDown.
Raw's already got Rusev, Sheamus, Gunther when he comes back, Braun and Braun. There's too much meat on Raw. He definitely needs to go to SmackDown for sure.
SmackDown needs some sort of dominant force, and
he needs the star power. And I think Oba, of anybody that has come out of NXT for the last several years, sorry, I'm adjusting my mic. Of anybody that's come out of NXT the last couple of years, I think Oba Femi has more star power. I mean, even more than Braun Breaker, Mello when he first came up, even though they dropped the ball on him. Maybe Stephanie, you could say Stephanie Vaquer has, but at least from the men's side, I think Oba brings immediate presence and star power to SmackDown, which desperately needs it.
Right.
All right, so before we dive into this conversation, I'm gonna do some stuff, read some stuff off for you guys, some interesting things for the chat and stuff too. So I'm gonna be making a separate video for this, but this is completely opposite. So I looked up who has the most losses in the 2010s for WWE. So people who have the most losses. I'm sorry, the most losses in general, as far as. Let me pull it up real quick. See if I can find it. I just had it. There we go. All right, there we go. It has like top 20, but I'm only gonna read the top 10 because top 20 is like.
Glad I didn't pick that for the next trivia.
Not relevant. But there's a lot of names on here that are gonna be interesting. So these are the superstars who have the most losses in WWE history, just in the top 10. So we're only gonna look at the top 10 right here.
In WWE history, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in WWE history, so at number 10. Is Triple H with 839 losses.
I mean, we're about to talk about longevity. It's not necessarily going to be all losers on this list, I assume. It's just going to be people who are around forever wrestling.
Yeah, people who have lost his for people who want to know, his win and loss record is 1,006 wins and 839 losses.
Because he was also top 10 in wins. Remember when we did the trivia several months ago? He was also
Triple H, and this is also for people who are on. This is also counting house shows, non-televised events. They count.
That's why I said that doesn't shock me.
It gets kind of finicky. I learned this when I did my trivia. It gets kind of finicky because WWE just picks and chooses what counts as official. So you just kind of have to go with the number that's listed there.
So read off the next ones. At number 9 is Sheamus, 885 losses. He has 978 wins in his career.
Again, not surprising for me. I mean, he's always the guy that puts the guy over. Cena, Reigns, Rollins.
Yeah.
So not a surprise.
Number 8 is Kofi Kingston, 891 losses, 1,266 wins.
Not a surprise because a lot of people might think that with the New Day that win number would be higher. But the New Day, when they were at their peak, they were kind of an event tag team. They didn't wrestle every week. They won the titles and then came out and cut promos for 3 weeks and then wrestled at the pay-per-view.
So at number 7, this one might be shocking for a lot of the viewers who don't know this. Number 7 is Cody Rhodes, 893 losses. Cody actually has more losses in his career than wins. He only has 738 wins. 800.
That doesn't shock me at all.
Wouldn't have guessed it, but doesn't shock me, yeah.
Cody, before the American Nightmare gimmick, was taking a lot of L's back in the day. Yeah. So. Number 6 is The Big Show, 910 losses, 1,228 wins.
Again, not a surprise. He was always the guy before Sheamus. That was The Big Show, putting the next big guy over. So,
number 5 is Randy Orton, 1,054 losses, still ongoing because he's still an active wrestler as well. 1,276 wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not surprising because he came up in the era of Brock Lesnar and John Cena. Orton was kind of always number 3 on that list. So, yeah.
Number 4 on the list is Dolph Ziggler, 1,187 losses.
I'm shocked he's not number 1.
Only has
I've-
805 wins in his career.
but they were big wins. I've come to grips with the fact that Dolph Ziggler was just always the guy. Need somebody to look good? Where's Dolph Ziggler? Need somebody to get a big win? Where's Dolph Ziggler? He was just that. He was just that guy. That was his role.
He was the. Oh, we're calling somebody up. There's your first few.
Yeah. Where's Dolph Ziggler? Yeah. Got a new champion that you want somebody to beat 3 times in a row? Where's Dolph Ziggler? Yeah. So yeah.
So
That was the last good Goldberg match.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run through these next 3. At number 3 is the Brooklyn Brawler, one of the most epic jobbers you ever
The
find.
first jobber. Yeah.
1,214 losses, only has 152 wins in his career.
That's wild.
152 is ridiculous.
That's wild.
152 wins, 11% win percentage.
That's crazy.
Number 2 is Kane, 1,229 losses.
We knew
Kane
that one.
also has 1,490 wins.
Yep, he was number 4 in wins last time we did that.
Kane has wrestled the most matches in WWE history, by the way. That's why.
Is number 1 the Miz?
Number 1 is The Miz, 1,309 losses, 744 wins in his career.
That's wild. I honestly can't remember the last time the Miz won a match. Honestly, the last one that sticks out is when he cashed in on who was it? Who did he even cash in on?
Wait, didn't he win with Logan Paul?
Maybe I honestly can't remember. G, that's
When
my
they beat the
problem.
Mysterios, didn't they win that match?
Oh yeah, you're right.
The Miz is what Dolph Ziggler was, but even more valuable because he's always there, never gets hurt. Obviously, Dolph Ziggler was always getting hurt. Yeah, the Miz, he's a Hall of Famer for sure, but not surprising to me that he's number 1 in losses.
All right, and before we start in this conversation, did one of these clips. It did pretty well. A lot of people like this one. So we're going to do another one of these, but with a different wrestler. So I'm going to name one wrestler, and then I'm going to name a bunch of different wrestlers. You're going to tell me if these individuals have had a better overall career, than this individual. So the superstar is Triple H. I'm going to name a bunch of different wrestlers, and you're going to tell me if they've had a better overall career than Triple H. So... Well, actually,
away from this man. I can't get away from this man.
And we'll go in order. And these are just better careers. It's not about who's better overall, talent-wise. Just a better career. Who's had?
You're just trying to make me give Triple H some flowers, is what this is. But okay,
It's gonna be a
I'll
better conversation later anyway. So,
all right.
So first superstar I'll name is Seth Rollins.
No.
I'll say no, but I don't think it's as far away slam dunk as Mo made it sound. But I'll say no.
No, Triple H is better.
I think he's close.
Triple H better career. Brock Lesnar.
Fuck no.
So just to make sure I understand, if I say no, you're asking. If I say no, that means I think Triple H had a better career than Brock Lesnar.
Yes. Not basing it off talent. You just who's.
Yeah, I know. I think I would have to say yes. I mean, Brock, perennial WrestleMania main eventer, dominant world championship reigns. He was a bigger draw at his peak than Triple H was. Not a better in-ring performer, obviously. Not a better promo, but didn't need to be because he had Paul Heyman the whole time. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Brock. And I don't want to because he's gross, and I wish he wasn't around right now. But looking back,
So, because I mean, we talk about better career. Okay, so let's establish something because Mo's about to have a heart attack. So
I'm gonna ask before you continue, Malik. After I'm gonna ask the whole group a question that I asked the guys on Rated M. Go ahead.
because I just want to know, like, when we talk better career, obviously we're looking at accomplishments, but what else is entailing when we say career?
well, I mean,
when we're looking at career, we're looking at match quality, stories, peaks, longevity. If people have had that, obviously accomplishments, even though it's a scripted event, but accomplishments do matter here and there.
Mhm.
Those can help boost up your credibility. So just all the above.
Okay, so if that's what we're going by, I'm gonna go Triple H. But I have to sit there and think about it for a second. But go ahead, Mo.
So I'm gonna ask this entire group a question that I asked my guys on Rated M on Thursday, and they struggled to answer this question. Since his return in 2012, Name me 5 great to elite stories Brock Lesnar's been a part of. Go.
Okay, so
5.
The Undertaker one.
the Undertaker story is one.
Even though it was the wrong winner, I think the Cena one was good. The first one. I think the Cena one was
Great
I would agree.
to elite. Great to elite. We're not.
great to elite. All right, cool. That's fine.
Well,
Great
then
And so I mean, he is nitpicking, but I think I can do it. So
no, I asked the question. I don't.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So we said the Taker one.
Mhm.
The Fatal 4-Way. That was a great elite story. That was a great elite story. I don't know
about
with Samoa Joe, yeah.
And then I was about to say the Samoa Joe one before that and Great Balls of Fire, elite story.
That was a good story.
They had me whooped.
Okay. Matches matter, but okay. Continue.
You said story.
You didn't ask matches, Mo.
See, now
Is matches not a part of the story?
No. You just asked story.
Continue.
Because Mo, you can
tell a tremendous story and have a shitty match.
Mo, I'm gonna give you
all the time.
Mo, I'm gonna give you an example of an elite story with a shitty match. Triple H, Randy Orton.
There you go.
Perfect example of an elite story with a shitty match. So you have to specify. You said story. We didn't say match. You said story.
So you want story and match, or you want the story?
Yeah,
I
story
count
and
matches
match,
as a
that
part of a
changes,
story.
bro.
I
count matches as a part of a story. If you
my back
cannot
was-
deliver on your match,
Mo, I can't move these goalposts right now. My back hurts.
I'm not moving.
I can't lift
My
the
bad,
goalposts.
my bad. Never mind.
I'm with Mo. I think
I
matches.
can't
are
lift the
part of story.
goalposts.
Okay, so
Never
with that
mind.
being said,
Never
do y'all
mind.
think
Because like you said,
Never mind.
Triple H and Randy Orton had a good story, but we don't really talk about that anymore because the match was shitty.
Okay, so wait,
The
so
match
you're
was
telling
great,
me so
and we
with
would
this
talk
with this logic, Triple H and Randy Orton wasn't an elite story?
It was, but we don't talk about it because the match was shitty.
Okay, but if you're saying right now it's an elite story, then clearly the match didn't matter because the match was dog shit.
The match does matter because it would rank higher all the time. We'd be talking about
But
it.
but we're not talking about where it ranks all the time. We're talking about whether or not the story is elite or not. It's a yes or no. Not does it rank higher or later.
The story can be good, but if the match doesn't deliver, then it doesn't hold the
But
higher
he-
standard.
That tanks the story. That hurts the story.
Okay, nobody is disagreeing. I don't think me and Jade are disagreeing that that match hurt the
Boom.
story.
Someone literally just explained it in the chat. That's like watching a good movie and the ending is trash. Boom.
Okay, again,
Perfect explanation.
nobody here is disagreeing with that. I don't think me and Jade are saying it didn't hurt the story. But Malik, I just asked you, is it still elite even with the bad match? You said yes. So yeah, it can hurt it. It doesn't have it higher, but it's still an elite story. It wasn't whether or not it's a top 10 story. It's whether or not it's elite or no. And even though a match can hurt it, if the story's still elite, it's still elite. Like at the end of the day, the match is still elite. I mean, not the match. The story's still elite. Yeah, the ending can taint it. It can keep it from being higher than what it was. But even as I said, that's like watching a good movie and then the ending's trash.
I also
the
would
ending can be
argue,
trash and it can still be a good movie.
but this
It
is
just
what
hurts
this is what differentiates from the example that person in chat gave about a movie having a terrible ending. I would argue, using Triple H and Randy Orton as an example, that the great storytelling did continue into the match. Was the execution poor? Yes. Did the story suffer because they didn't add a stipulation to this match? Yes. But that in no way changes the storytelling that got us to that point. In no way, shape, or form does it change it. So I guess and this is why wrestling conversations are at the same time so great and so fucking annoying. It's because everyone weighs things on a different scale. To Mo, it matters tremendously whether or not the match lives up to the hype. For me, when we're having this discussion, I draw a very thick, bold line between the end of the story and the ring of the bell. I think you judge those things independently. Now, can they come together? And can you then say, man, when it comes to storytelling and match quality, that may have been one of the best ever? Yes. While at the same time, you can have a different conversation that says, man, if they had a great match, that would have been even better. But the story up to the point that the bell rang was tremendous. So I guess I'm viewing it more through that lens, where Mo is viewing it more towards the totality lens, which I understand. But that wasn't the question that we got asked first. So that's why G and I were confused.
Yeah, like I get your argument. Like I'm with Jay. I'm with Jay 100%. I 1000% get you.
So I'll say it like this: Brock Lesnar, sure, he had a lot of good stories in between 2012, but he had a lot of matches that tanked though. That's what hurts it for me. Like he had a lot of matches that didn't live up to the story.
Let me throw this back at you, Mo, because this is something that I hold in high regard. I hold in high regard when you can get thrown into a match that has zero story, right? And be able, my fucking microphone is falling, and be able to tell in that match the story that you weren't able to tell leading up to it. Prime example, Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan in 2018. The storytelling in that match from bell to bell may have been better than the totality of the storytelling for most of the stories that were told in 2018. Let's be honest. So Brock Lesnar had examples throughout his career where the build was short because that's who he was. Brock Lesnar shows up, Brock Lesnar throws some suplexes, and Brock Lesnar leaves. But when he was on, the storytelling in the ring often sometimes made up for the storytelling that could have been told outside of the ring. Whereas Triple H, I don't think he had that. I think Triple H was the opposite. I think if you didn't have a great story going into the match, it was kind of hard to connect with a Triple H match because I don't think his in-ring storytelling was that level. But he was an elite level. He was an elite level show-to-show storyteller. Never denied otherwise.
Someone just said it. It's the same as if the story is bad, but the match is great. We've been on this podcast multiple times, especially when it comes to the women, talking about how ass them builds are, but how wonderful the match is. Not a single one of us take down the match because of how ass the story was going in. Charlotte Rhea Ripley is a perfect example.
Bianca versus
y'all, I've been up here when people have called that match possibly the greatest women's match of all time. Ain't nobody talk about that build because that build was horrific. That build was atrocious. Like that's it was literally what made us start with the trend. Hey, we know how that woman's feud gonna go. Hey, Bill gonna be trash, but the match gonna deliver. This was probably the first time in years where the match and the story was bad with Tiffany and Charlotte. That was probably the first time in years. The only one that had a good match with a good build behind it was Bianca and Becky going in. That was the only one we could look at as a recent memory that we could say had both. But all them other ones, Rhea Charlotte, bad build, atrocious. Sasha and Bianca were feuding over Reggie. They were feuding over Reggie. But we get to that match, elite. That's what I'm saying. I don't like, yes, I understand if you put the two together. But if we're going to do that, we have to do it both ways. We can't say, oh, the story going in or the story was great, but then the match declines it. But then we don't do it the other way around. Because I have not heard on this podcast anybody take notches down on a match because the story going in was trash. I haven't seen that happen.
Go ahead, Mo.
I'm going to answer my original question and switch the name to Triple H and tell you how easy it is because I don't have to jump through these hoops with these feuds. Shawn Michaels. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, The Rock, and Batista. All good stories backed up by great matches. I don't have to jump through these hoops.
It's not about jumping through hoops. You asked us a
about,
question and then got mad at us for the answer.
It's about identifying what matters to us as a story, Mo. I mean, obviously,
we're not jumping
obviously what I'm getting from you, Mo, is that the match is it's like 60-40 versus the story is what I'm getting from you. It's that you have very low expectations for a story as long as the match is great is what I'm getting from you, because otherwise I don't understand why we're having this discussion. I mean,
I'm saying,
and it's not jumping through hoops.
Those stories, like the Samoa Joe story, for example, that y'all brought up, the Samoa Joe story, to me, gets ruined because of how bad that match was and how bad they delivered on that.
Okay, but that's why I said the problem with that. I don't necessarily
from being a great story.
But I don't necessarily disagree with why, and I understand why you're saying that. But again, vice versa. Nobody knocks down a match. If you're saying it goes hand in hand, nobody on this podcast specifically, I can't speak for everybody else in the world, nobody on this podcast specifically has knocked down the match because the story going in was trash. Not a single one. Because then we can't say Rhea and Charlotte is one of the greatest women's matches we've ever seen in our life. Because the story going in was one of the worst. We can't say Sasha and Bianca was one of the greatest women's matches we ever seen in our life because they were feuding over a man who was somebody else's mother.
Let me flip that. Do people not take Cena Orton down a notch because of how weak those matches were for the most part?
I'm not disagreeing with that point. I'm not disagreeing.
That's my entire point.
But Mo, this all started because
we're talking about story, not matches. We're talking about story.
Okay. No, everybody has looked at the entirety of Cena and Orton as a whole and brought it down a bit because they're taking into account everything. But if you just ask somebody, yo, look at the stories. If you just look at the stories, best we'd ever seen, except the matches. You're right. The matches, you go back and look at them, the matches wasn't always hitting. The matches wasn't always great. If we take the totality into everything, that's why I think recently we've had the conversation, hey, we got to stop calling Randy Orton Cena's greatest rival. It's really Edge for real, because they delivered on both. They delivered on both. But when you ask somebody, hey, elite stories, right? A lot of people, and I don't think it's a crazy thing to assume that a lot of people are just going to look at the story. Because again, on the flip side, that's why I say if you're going to do that, that's fine. But then you got to do it reverse as well. If you're going to say something goes hand in hand, I'm with you, fine. Hey, a story's going to come down because the match quality wasn't good. I'm with you on that. Do it the other way too. You have to do it the other way. You have to, because if not, then you're picking and choosing. You have to then say, hey, a match is going to come down because the story going in wasn't that good. You have to do that.
Getting back to a Hollywood example,
Why it's the same thing.
No, you don't. Hold on.
It goes hand in hand. You can't see the story.
Hold on. I have an objective example because I have never sat down and watched this show, right? But everybody I talk to about The Sopranos, they always say the exact same thing. It is top 2 television shows of all time with one of the worst endings I have ever seen. They don't take that bad ending and deduct 30% of what they think about the show from it, like you're basically implying we should do. What you're implying is if you have a story that you would rate at a 100% that caps off with what you would qualify as a bad match, what you're implying to us is we should then take 50% off of our score for that story because the match was so bad. Well, then what are you saying? I don't understand.
I'm saying
I don't understand
that knocks
your point
it,
because
when we're talking about the Samoa, okay, wrestling's different because from like a regular TV show, because your entire story is building up to one big crescendo. If that one big crescendo fails to deliver, that story has to go down a notch. But here's an example, right? A bad build, Charlotte and Rhea. Nobody says that match is not one of the greatest women's matches in WrestleMania history because the build was so bad. We care about the match quality and that's it. A match is a match on its own, but a match is a part of a story. Hold on. Yes. A match is a match on its own, but a match is a part of a story. And that story goes down if the match doesn't deliver.
Jay, is that not my whole point? Jade, is that not my whole point?
I feel like it is. I feel like the disconnect that we're having, Mo, is G and I, again, just getting back, just putting numbers on it. G and I maybe would take off 5 to 8% of our total score if the ending was bad. But for you, it sounds like if you're left with a bad taste in your mouth, you lose all credibility in your storytelling up to that point. And I just don't believe that.
Mo,
I don't buy it.
Okay, so y'all said
if you feel that a match, you feel that a match is part of a story, and a bad match can taint the overall story. That's what you're basically saying, right?
Yes.
Can you not say the same thing? Can you not say the same thing of reverse? A story is part of a match, and a bad story
in a match.
Just a match.
I grade a match based on what the fuck they did in the ring. I don't grade a story.
So we can't grade a story based on what they did before the bell. That makes no sense. You're basically contradicting yourself. You're saying I can't. You just said I can rate a match solely based on what happens in the ring. Why can't we rate a story solely based on what happens before the bell rings? That makes no sense, Mo. If you're gonna go one way, you have to go the other. You can't have your cake and eat it too, and that's what you're doing right now.
The existence of one has to quantify the existence of the other, Mo. You can't have it one way. And
Mo, I don't even disagree with that logic that you're saying.
Right.
I don't even disagree with it. But then you can't then turn around and be like, oh yeah, but a match can be a match on its own. No story doesn't matter. You can't do that. You literally can't do that. If a story is part of a match, then by virtue, a match is part of a story. Like, they have to go hand in hand. I can separate it. Again, Charlotte Rhea's perfect example. Horrible view, horrible build, elite match. I can separate the two. That's why when you ask the elite story, I'm just looking at the week-to-week promos and how they built that going in.
Yeah. And listen, I get the need to defend Triple H because Triple H has told us that we need to defend him. But I just feel like you can look at things objectively and understand that while a match does indicate, but it does indicate the end of a story, but then wrestling gets really tricky, right? Because you tell this big long story and have a blow up match that ends in disqualification, and then you have to have another match after that. So wrestling is tricky when you start trying to capitalize a story with a match, because a lot of times you don't just end with one match. So that's why I tend to separate it, because if the plan all along is to tell this great story and then to say, well, we don't want this wrestler to look weak, so when they lose, they're going to take a DQ loss, and then that means we have to have a follow-up, then that in itself sort of lends itself to why you have to separate the storytelling pre-bell to the match quality and the match execution post-bell. And it is perfectly okay to say, in the instance of in an instance of that fatal four-way match, to say, wow,
Bring up the last.
if
comment.
you were to give this promo package for the fatal four-way the quality and attention that you gave the Monster promo package or the My Way promo package, that would be a killer promo package because the story and the promos were so good. But at the same time, say, wow, I wish I had taken a bathroom break during that match. You could separate the two and say, tremendous story, terrible match.
This the one you wanted?
Mo's point is that a match is more independent thing, while a story is more dependent on the match.
So y'all name 3 stories. Go ahead, continue. So you name Undertaker, Samoa Joe, and then what?
They said the Fatal 4-Way.
I said the Fatal 4-Way.
Okay.
That comment didn't make sense, but
yeah, I don't really understand that.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You can't have one thing be dependent on it's like science, independent and dependent variables. Like it all goes together, but whatever.
And then my last point that I made, Mo, was that I would include, because I think when you're trying to quantify how great a wrestler's career was, you can't always compare apples to apples. What Triple H did well and what he was known for doing well is not going to be the exact same thing as what Brock Lesnar was known for doing well. So I think you have to compare apples to oranges sometimes. Triple H was tremendous, like I said, at week-to-week storytelling, building the match through scenes and through promos and through dialogue. What Brock Lesnar was great at was being fed an opponent and then telling the story in the ring. Daniel Bryan is an example. Finn Balor is an example. AJ Styles as an example. Even Roman Reigns, I would argue, the storytelling, even before Seth Rollins came out and cashed in 2015, I think they told a great story. I think the in-ring storytelling in 2015 was better than any other storytelling they did in-ring for any other Brock and Roman match up to that point. So I think Brock's in-ring storytelling really speaks to his storytelling ability because, like you said, the match has to count. The match has to count for something. So when you have a short build, but then you have a match, and within it, the story within that match is phenomenal, I think that has to count for something. So when you're asking me to count on one hand how many great story build-ups Brock Lesnar had, I would throw in the great in-ring stories that he told with the guys that I mentioned before.
Well,
I think that evens the scales a little bit.
Well, I'm not even going to do that. The last two I would bring up is CM Punk and Goldberg post-2012.
Goldberg was a great story.
That was a great story. That was an elite story. That was crazy. Yeah. That was a great story. And then CM Punk.
CM Punk was a good story.
Yeah, the Paul Heyman, everything about that was great.
And honorable mention for, even though this one is heavily carried by Roman, but Tribal Chief Roman, that story was crazy, but it's heavily carried by Roman. I can admit that.
All right, let's run through the rest of these real quick. What about Bret Hart?
No.
Oh, career. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a no.
Yeah, no for me as well.
Roman Reigns.
No.
No is crazy. Yes, Roman Reigns. Yes.
Woo! That's the whole point of this whole show. I'm going yes.
Triple H was a great guy. He was never the guy. Triple H was a great guy. He was never the guy. Roman, for the past 6 years, has been the guy.
Unfortunately, I think people have to recognize Roman is an anomaly, and we're going to get onto it later. It's an anomaly, but we're going to get onto it later.
John Cena.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We said it backwards. Yeah.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah, John Cena.
We got a couple more. Some of these might be easier than others. Undertaker. You got an answer, Mo?
You said who?
Undertaker.
Oh, I was about to say, why are we
Yeah, Taker.
I was like, it's Taker. What are we doing?
Randy Orton.
This should be
I
easy.
don't know if
but
he can
love
hear
this
us,
one.
bro.
You said Orton,
Yeah.
Triple H.
It feels like they've had similar amounts of Mania matches. I think Triple H did Triple H have one or two more world titles than Orton?
He's got like 2 more.
They have the
Randy's
same
got
amount.
No, they got the same
Randy's-
amount.
same amount. Man, this is really close. I'm gonna say no, only because when Triple H was closest to being the guy, he had Orton under his thumb. So I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm going Triple H better than Orton.
All right. We'll end it right there. Let's dive
Nah,
into
cool.
to these-
And by the way, just to be clear, Brock Lesnar's presence in WWE currently disgusts me, and I hate it. So it killed me to have to take that side of the argument. But
No. But we were just speaking objectively.
Yeah, this is a different conversation. We're just speaking about career. So, all right. So the whole topic of the podcast, as everybody can see, name is peaks or longevity. So to dive into this conversation, into breakpoints of what we're going to talk about, is going to be, what do we value more, longevity or peaks? Now, yes, some people can have both, but there are necessarily some people who may not have a great peak to a certain level, but they got longevity attached to a great accomplishments with their careers. Then there are certain superstars who may not have the longevity, but they have such a high peak that not many people reach, that it really becomes questionable, like which one is more valuable, the peaks or longevity. Now, I will say, I feel like every time we've had conversations on this podcast about GOATs, Mount Rushmores, it usually seems about people who have high peaks. Some people like, Austin and Rock and other individuals that we're going to talk about. Very high peaks may not have the longevity attached to it with the peaks. Maybe their peaks lasted 4 or 5 years, but their peaks were so high that it's really hard to deny when it's like, when you have a peak like that, how many individuals can you name can really reach that stratosphere? But then again, we got somebody like a Shawn Michaels we've talked about in those conversations who may not have had a Stone Cold type peak, but he has great longevity with his career. Two sides of it. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it. I want to see everybody's perspectives and opinions about what they think is valuable more. So we'll start with Mo. We can start with you. What do you think is more valuable for you personally? And then you can give some examples of some superstars that you want to compare or whatever.
Personally, I value, if just on paper, I value longevity more. Now, there are anomalies like Austin, where despite the fact that it's all about context, because despite the fact that he was only in the WWE, I want to say he got in 95, late 95, early 96, and was out by 03. The man, his impact and what he did in that span of time, not many people can say they came anywhere near that. Right. But then you got a guy like Shawn Michaels who may not have peaked as high as Stone Cold, but him being as great as he was for as long as he was, like, for example, the 90s run, elite run, right? And that was, I think, about from, let's say, 90 to 98. Great run. And then he does it again for another 8, to a total of 16. It's like, it's all about context, but I think longevity to me is just a little bit more important.
Jay, what about you?
yeah, important to me. I mean, it's the peaks that we remember, right? I mean, people are going to remember Stone Cold and The Rock way before they're going to remember guys who are much more known for their longevity, like Dolph Ziggler or Kofi Kingston. I think it's my favorite ones are the rare breed that can have both. The Undertaker comes to mind. That's why The Undertaker is so high on my list, because maybe he never quite reached Stone Cold's level of peak, but whoever did. But he was always right there. And even when Stone Cold's peak started to go down, and then even when Stone Cold left the company, Undertaker stayed up there. And he stayed up there until, I would argue, 2012. I would say The Undertaker's extended peak lasted from 1997 to 2012, while Steve Austin peaked higher but his peak realistically was only from 97 to about 2000, maybe even a little shorter than that. So history is going to remember people for their peaks, but I value really, and it sounds like a cop-out answer, but you can, when you see it in my top 10 or even in my top 5, guys like Undertaker, Ric Flair, Bruno Sammartino, John Cena reached the highest peak they could achieve and then stayed there for a really, really, really long time. Sounds like a cop-out answer, I know, but when you look at my top 5, it's obvious that I value people who can do both because it's not easy to do both at all.
Go ahead, G.
For once, I actually agree with James Weezer. He pretty much summed it up perfectly for me. It's quality over quantity. I don't care how long you do something. How good was it when you did it? That's how I feel. I don't care. Like, because I feel like when we have these conversations, now that we actually getting into the depths of what it means, right? I think most of the time when we look at it, like, I hear a bunch of people be like, oh, yeah, I prefer longevity. And then they top 3 is number peak guys. I'm like, if you value longevity so much, your top 5 should be different. Your top 10 should be different. But it's not. Because, yeah, I feel like the longevity for me is great if you can, add on to it, right? If you kept giving me good stuff way past your peak and your prime at that point. Shout out to you. More power. But it's all about, because at the end of the day, stars are made in their peak. At the end of the day, stars are made in their peak. The peak is what cements you and where you're going to be for the eternity of your career. Cody Rhodes is an example of, yeah, he got longevity technically. Other than Stardust, his mid-card run was actually pretty good, all things considered. But that peak is what's put him in these conversations. The peak is why I'm like, hey, yo, Cody keep doing what he doing at this level. Hey, man, that's a crazy 3-year, 4-year peak right there for Cody Rhodes, right? Roman Reigns' career is 1,000% revitalized because of this little 3.5-year peak. And so for me, that's why I value. If we go down my top 5s and what I rank, right? I value peak more. Now, if you got a high peak and you sustain said peak for a very long time, hey, I'm gonna give you more props to that. Because now, when I compare everybody else's peak, now you have a longer peak. But longevity as a whole, like, I'm not gonna, and I think a lot of people really need to specify where you really are talking about peaks, just how long the peak was. Because longevity, I'm not gonna look at what Kofi Kingston did as SOS Boom and what he was doing as with the Evan Bournes and the little, when I know his peak is the New Day. Like, when I look at Kofi Kingston, I rank his career, I know his peak is the New Day. Right? Yeah, he had his little Evan Bourne. I think he was a tag champ with R-Truth or whoever else it was. Yeah, cool, fine, dandy. That's awesome. But when we look at longevity, that's like the last thing we think about. Right? Cody Rhodes, he's got longevity if we keep it above. Stardust was bad. But when I look at where I rank Cody Rhodes, the last thing I'm thinking about is Dashing. That's the last thing I'm thinking about. So when I look at the peaks, when I rank my guys, it's really about who had a more qualitative peak, and then if that qualitative peak was longer, all right, cool. Undertaker, prime example. And when we look at that, we also got to look at anomalies. That's why I said earlier, Roman Reigns is really an anomaly. We just, that's a conversation people ain't ready for yet. Undertaker to me is an anomaly too. This man showed up in 4 years about 8 times. This man showed up on TV, I'll say 12. I'll give him three a year. This man showed up on TV 3 times a year for 4 years straight and was giving me goat shit after goat shit after goat shit after goat shit. Like, that alone, if you showing up 3 times and you giving me some of the best ever, you giving me some of the greatest ever, and you on TV 3 times out the year, plus what you did before with your Edge feud and your Batista feud and the CM Punk feud and all that stuff before, how could I not put you up there? That's a crazy peak to me. Like, yeah, you was doing this before. And Undertaker specifically, the only person who I feel could have made that character work for 2 decades. Like, let's be real. That debuts in 2025. Niggas are looking like, what the fuck is this? What are we doing? Right? But look at what he gave me in 4 years, showing up 3 times per year. The greatest ever. Greatest story ever. One of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever. If not, 2 out of the top 3 WrestleMania matches ever. If not matches, period. One of the greatest stories ever. With one of the greatest kickouts ever. One of the greatest matches ever. Like, go, right? Like, but all of that is peak to me. That's peak Undertaker. Then we can get into the earlier years when he first debuted and the Kane story. He was like, we can get all that later. Looking at the peak. And that's showing up 3 times a year. Like, that's showing up 3 times in the year. And then before that, he was still giving you elite with Edge, elite with Batista. He gave you elite with CM Punk. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really a matter of how long your peak was. That's what I think it is. Because ain't nobody talking about him versus John Gonzalez. Ain't nobody talking about Undertaker versus Kane in the early days and Triple H the first time. And ain't nobody talking about that. Ain't nobody talking about his first 9 wins. Like, you know what I mean? That's really what I see it. Like, peak. I think everything really is a peak conversation. If we really get into the nitty-gritty, I think everything is a peak conversation.
I mean, it's not crazy to say. I mean, a lot of people, when you're ranking certain superstars, I do think the peaks do outweigh the longevity as far as how people are going to rank them, just based off conversations you can see with any type of sports, NFL, NBA, like boxing, UFC, WWE as well. It seems like peaks are always in the conversations more than the actual longevity itself, because there are certain people who have good longevity, like Randy Orton has great longevity in his career, very accomplished, but he's never had a John Cena type peak. He's never had a Roman Reigns type peak, a Rock or Austin or a Hogan type peak, so maybe that's why certain people don't put Orton in the top 5 or in those conversations, because yeah, he's got the longevity, but he doesn't have the peak of other individuals that really changed professional wrestling, you could say. Someone wants to know Mo, why you're bald.
Somebody said, yeah, Mo, people think you're bald.
Not even the same shade of black.
So it looks like a man-made made a comment that said there's a difference. I'm assuming there's a difference between peaks and prime. You're talking their prime. No, I mean, maybe, but for the point of this conversation, I mean, because here we go. This is why wrestling conversations can be so.
I was like, now we get into semantics, bro. Like
semantics, we know what I mean.
Is just to be funny. Peak and prime to me is just like a funny way to extend the conversation. My nigga, peak. Like when we talk about peak, you're at the apex. You are at like top of the top. This is the best you're ever going to get. If you sustain that for 4 years, you were at your peak for 4 years. Prime is what? The tier below? Like, it's peak. We know what it means.
I look at it, I'll give you an example using basketball. I look at it like 2008-9 LeBron to like 2020. But his peak, I'm saying his peak is either like 13 or 18, whatever, depending on what you value. I think that's how they're thinking about it.
And see, to me, this is where I disagree. If you want to talk about the best season he ever had, cool. But LeBron, to me, bare minimum, to me, in my opinion, from that first year in Miami, or even when you go to second year in Miami, to 2018, that's the peak.
See,
that to me is like you're the best basketball player, and everybody else is fighting for second. Nobody's coming close to you.
You have to look at in this perspective. You have to look at their THEIR. I know there's a difference between the two, and that's what I'm trying to explain. The definition of prime means ready to go, ready to be at your best. Someone can be in their prime and have no peak. You could argue right now that Lonzo Ball is in his physical prime. This is as good at basketball as he's ever going to get, but he's never going to reach the peaks that other players get. Dolph Ziggler, for years and years and years, was as good at wrestling as he was ever going to get, but because the decisions were never made to put him in the position to have that peak, he never had it. We understand. Please stop trying to give me a grammar lesson when you don't know the difference between there and there. Please. We understand the difference between peak and prime. That's not what we're saying. You are having a different conversation than we are.
Jade, you didn't have to do that, bro.
I'm just.
You ain't have to do
He
that,
keeps
bro.
saying it, and it's getting on my nerves. Anyway, so my point is, we understand what we're talking about. We understand the difference.
So is there a certain superstar who has a peak that doesn't like belong in the conversations that rank higher?
What do you mean?
Like when you're talking about like all time lists, like is there a certain superstar who had a good peak, but maybe they're putting them in like a top 5 or whatever?
So from what I personally hear, I think everybody who it's really when we start getting into like 7 through 12, that's when really we start to, because I think everybody for the most part, right? And we're not counting Hulk Hogan in this, RIP, but we're not counting him because I know most people don't. Most people top 5s that I hear are the same 5: Cena, Stone Cold, Rock, Taker, HBK. That I think is the consensus 5 for about 90% of wrestling fans, right? Then we start getting into the, as of late, I think the conversation has shifted, right? I think Randy Orton just kind of came down a little more. Roman Reigns just came up. Triple H is still kind of floating in there. We have Edge in there. And then we start getting into when do we start putting Seth? When do we start putting Cody? Is Brett still there? That's kind of where I feel the conversation changed, right? So when we look to answer your question directly, I feel like peak-wise, I feel like a peak that maybe people are starting to put up higher now that maybe if we do the math or if we watch the film probably shouldn't be. I think it's the Seth. I think Seth peak, I think is starting to get, not to say it's overrated, but it's starting to get put in conversations that I'm like, I don't know. Right now, if they start doing the value of the longevity thing, I can understand it a little more.
Yeah.
Right? I can definitely understand it a little more because, I mean, Seth is basically baby Shawn Michaels. Baby Shawn Michaels in the sense of like, there's really not a lot of bad you can point to. And it's just consistently he's giving you good stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas HBK obviously was consistently giving you elite. I think Seth is giving you consistently good.
It's
with a couple of elite things sprinkled here and there.
You know what it reminds me of, looking at another sports example, is a guy like Seth Rollins, when you're comparing him to other wrestlers, it reminds me of the GOAT quarterback conversation and people who put Dan Marino in the conversation, who never sniffed a Super Bowl, never won a championship, but because he was such a great passer, a generational passer of the football, even though he never won that title, you will always hear people put Marino in their top 5. Almost always, Marino ends up in people's top 5, even though he never sniffed a championship. Although Seth Rollins has won championships in WWE, when I'm comparing the two, I'm comparing a Roman Reigns style peak to a Super Bowl, right?
Right.
So yeah, Rollins never won the Super Bowl. He never got to where Roman got in his career, but the longevity is there. And Seth Rollins is one of the best in-ring performers that's ever existed. Not much to say right now, ever existed. So yeah, people are going to start putting him in conversations. And I don't think it's unfair. Again, I just think it goes back to some wrestlers are great at option A. Some wrestlers are tremendous at option B.
But what type of
depends on
what type of conversations are we talking about Seth being in though? That's why I'm confused. Like what conversations are y'all hearing him being put in?
I think people,
top 10, top 15.
Like I've heard people say wherever Roman is, you need to have Seth.
Right, you need to have Seth.
And I'm like, no, because in the basket, since we keep using the sports analogies, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, wherever LeBron James is, you need to have Kevin Durant right behind. No.
I'd smack the shit out of him.
No. Even if they said Steph Curry. No.
Fuck no.
No.
I believe now I do agree with that analogy. Like wherever you have to have Roman, you have to have Seth. I hardly strongly disagree with that because Seth has never had a peak on the level of Roman. Now, Seth has never had the lows that Roman had as Big Dog, but like we talked about before, what's more valuable, peaks or longevity? And I think that's what goes into the peak conversation. Like,
although I would argue that, sorry to interrupt, I would just say I would argue that I hated 2019 Seth Rollins.
No,
I just
that
wanna
was
throw
that was his
out.
worst. But even then,
Especially on a rewatch, bro, that shit is
Yeah,
terrible.
bro.
That-
bro.
that was-
Sorry, go ahead,
that-
Malik. Sorry,
that was his worst. But even then, so Roman Reigns, you may argue, was even worse that year.
not as bad as the big dog.
No. He was.
Like Roman Reigns, like Seth Rollins was being pushed as champion, and that was his worst year. But then you look at Roman that year, the dog food storyline, losing matches to Shane McMahon, Eric Rowan, King Corbin. Like Roman Reigns also
Yeah.
had a pretty bad low that year too. So, I mean, Seth Rollins has been very consistent. Now, I do believe, as of right now, when you're talking top 10, I strongly believe it has to be considered in those conversations now. He may be at like the 9-10 range, but like Jade mentioned, you look at his body of work, he's been very consistent. He has good quality, good matches, good stories. He's had maybe one low in his whole career compared to many people. Now, when you're comparing his career to others about the highs and lows, okay, I can understand that. But when we're being consistent with the argument, Seth Rollins he's got the career. He's got the accomplishments. He's got the history making moments. He has everything you could ask for a career. Like if you look at his career on paper, 2-time Money in the Bank winner, 2 great cash-ins, Royal Rumble win, WrestleMania main events, IC championship reign that was very good in the 2010s era, one that stood out for many people that didn't have to stand out, world championship reigns. He's got the faction, that's legendary. Like he has the matches, the stories, he has everything that's there. But for some people, there's still something that's holding them back from putting him in those conversations. Maybe there's others that they still feel like have did it better, which I understand. But I feel like now when you're looking at the top 10, it's not crazy to consider him in those 10. Now, when you start to put him in the top 5, so that's wild. That's when we start to get like, oh, you're reaching now. But I feel like looking at his career, I don't see how he couldn't be in the conversation at this point.
I will say,
Yeah,
you guys have moved me to say peak is more. I will say that.
I also want to throw out, people forget how bad Seth Rollins' 2020 was too. I mean, we had the eye for an eye match. We had the rivalry with the Mysterios that went on for 7 months.
Never would end.
The eye for an eye match was probably the best.
Good point.
I mean, 2020 was pretty bad. Seth Rollins really had 2 consecutive bad years, and then it wasn't until 2021 crowds came back, Seth freaking Rollins came in. That's when he sort of finally started to recover.
Another thing that Seth is also very good at too is reinvention. Look at all the character works that he's done, reinventing himself. He's always been good at reinventing himself too. So I feel like he has to be at least in the conversations, when you're talking about that, because there are a lot of people that I've seen who feel like it's crazy to put him in those conversations, but they haven't really given me a logistic.
They're holding on to nostalgia. They
haven't gave me a real argument to tell me why he doesn't belong in that conversation, other than they dislike other superstars more and they feel like other superstars should be there over them because they like them more. If you look at Seth's career, once again, his entire career, his body of work, he's very accomplished. Okay, Jade said he got 2 bad years. 2 bad years out of how long he's been in WWE. Been in WWE on the main roster since 2012. We're in 2025 now. He had 2 bad years in that entire time frame. Not a bad resume.
I wasn't necessarily arguing on behalf of.
No, I'm just saying. Look,
I think people tend to, because the last 4 years have been so great, people tend to forget how bad 2020 was. 2020 was awful.
So what do you guys think about that? Somebody said they still have Jericho over Seth.
No.
In WWE, I can't do it.
No.
Because this is a WWE list. I can't do it in WWE. I can't do it in WWE.
Yeah, I guess if we're just talking WWE, no. If we are talking totality, I do have.
It's Jericho.
It's
Jericho for me.
Jericho by a country mile.
Jericho was great in WCW, and the first 2 or 3 years he was great in AEW.
Okay, so you compare
the stuff he did in New Japan too.
If you compare Jericho and Seth's career here, Jericho has historic moments, first undisputed champion, right? Seth has historic moments, first Money in the Bank cash in at WrestleMania. Both guys have main event at WrestleMania. Both guys have won mid-card titles. Both guys have been a part of good stories. Both guys have had good matches, some even elite matches that we remember and go back and rewatch. But where do you separate Jericho and Seth as far as putting Seth over Jericho?
Rollins has the
longevity.
Rumble. Yeah, the longevity one. Rollins has the Rumble. Rollins has 2 Money in the Banks now. Rollins has. I think that Rollins hung in there at the top of the card for longer than Jericho did. I don't think you would have ever seen Jericho having consistent feuds with Brock Lesnar or Triple H.
Okay, so let me break it down this way. Who do you guys think is better at reinventing, Jericho or Rollins?
Jericho.
Easily.
Who's a better storyteller, Jericho or Rollins?
I'd call that one a
Jericho.
wash. I'd call that one a
Yeah,
wash.
they're equal.
Jericho.
They're equal to
Jericho.
me. They're equal to me. They're equal to me.
Better match quality in ring, Jericho Rollins.
I think Rollins has a beat slightly.
Ooh, that's
Because
close.
again, we're just talking
Rollins, that's
WWE.
close.
I can't take into account New
No,
Japan stuff right now.
I know, but
That Sean
no,
feud, but that
Jericho-
Sean feud, boy. Ooh.
Sean
Listen,
feels really good.
when Jericho finally got out of them, because obviously he was pushed into the main event scene when he started, and then that world title reign in the beginning was so terrible. Obviously, once he was released from the main event and allowed to just cook, Jericho was great. So that's a wash too. I that's picking hairs trying to pick between the two.
Better promo.
Jericho. Yeah.
Yeah, Jericho.
I mean, I'm hearing a lot more Jericho than Rollins right now. So
As a talent, I'd probably take Jericho.
Yeah,
Well,
but
even
it's
if, I
just
mean,
when we-
this is just WWE
but-
though. Like I'm talking.
Yeah, but because we're looking at careers, and I think even though Jericho probably is a better talent, like I'm okay with saying he's a better overall.
I look
talent.
at talent and on-screen accomplishments, and Seth's on-screen accomplishments just so far outweigh Jericho's.
and like just looking at how they were presented, how they were booked, what they did with those. Like, I think Seth Rollins, like the reason why I would probably put him over Jericho slightly is just because in WWE, Seth I think was presented higher, like in his comp versus Jericho in his own comp. I think Seth Rollins, I mean, shoot, he has what 4 all-time elite, like they will play that on a WWE highlight package till the end of time. They will always play Heist of the Century. That now they're probably going to start playing Rules of the Century now because that was crazy. He's always going to have the Shield. They spam the Shield as one of the greatest debuts ever. He's always going to have that.
The heel turn.
The heel turn, turning on the Shield. So like that's 4 all-time moments right there that I think he's always going to have. I think in ring they can go band for band.
Yeah.
With the match quality, I think, and then stories, it's kind of a wash.
I'd give that
They
to
can
Jericho. I'd give
slightly,
that.
but like I think he could still go band for band.
I'd
I'll probably
also-
give the edge to Jericho too, though.
I'd also say one thing that I will always give. It's a drop in the pan for Rollins when we're comparing the two. Is Jericho obviously he left WCW because he wasn't a big enough star. Then he left WWF the first time to start a band. Then he left again because he was tired of wrestling. Then he left again because he doesn't like his booking. Meanwhile, Rollins, it seems like if he's ever going to get carried out of WWE, it's going to be on his Shield. Like Rollins has stuck through injury. He stuck through terrible booking. He stuck through them picking both Roman and at times Dean over him. He stuck through all of that, and he stayed with WWE. He was the voice of WWE when they were at their peak, going to war with AEW, and he took on that mantle. So that's a drop in the pan for Rollins, as far as I'm concerned. When you're talking about WWE careers, is he has been a warrior, tried and true, his entire career for WWE.
He sticks through all the
so
bullshit.
He gets a ton of credit for that. For me.
So we're talking about peaks and longevity. I want to talk about some more peaks aspect. G said Roman's an anomaly, so I'll let him explain that in a second.
Here we go with Roman again.
Roman's anomaly, but I want to talk about a guy who's had a high peak, but you don't hear many people put him in those conversations. I want to talk about The Rock real quick. Now, the reason I'm only bringing him up for a second, Rock and Austin had 2 peaks at the same time, right? Attitude Era. You can debate year by year which guy you thought was over who, right? Like Austin maybe 98, 99, then Rock 2000, 2001, like goes back and forth, right, between the two individuals. But I feel Austin's popularity was higher, right? We all can agree on that. He had a higher popularity and was the biggest draw they ever had. But when you're comparing peaks, I feel like there are a lot of people who feel like Austin's peak gaps Rock's peak so much for me. And that's something that I never seen or never really understood, because to me, their peaks were really like right here. Austin was more popular, but I never felt Rock was too far behind. When you look at the stories, they both had really good stories in that time. You could even argue Rock had better stories at some time. Like, I think Rock's stories with Triple H were better than Austin and Triple H, even though Austin and Triple H were really good. I thought Austin and Triple H was better. Kurt Angle and Rock, I thought was a little, you could argue maybe a little bit better than Austin and Angle. Foley and Rock, better than Austin and Angle. Like, there's different stories that I felt that he did better, when they were wrestling the same individuals. And then you look at the longevity. Obviously, they're pretty much kind of the same. Their peaks kind of really took off the same year. And then, Austin left around 03. Rock really left around 04 because he came back for that tag match at WrestleMania. So he's pretty much gone. But for you guys, what is it that separates comparing the two peaks for you when you're ranking Austin all the time? Because all of us have Austin on the Mount Rushmore, right? We all said Austin Mount Rushmore. He's on that list. But nobody really puts Rock in that conversation, at least anymore. He was there at one point, I think, for many people, but maybe not anymore. But what is it about the peaks that separated for you?
So I want to go first for two reasons. Number one, let me just explain real quick why I want to go first. Number one, this conversation is nostalgic as hell for me because this was the conversation or the topic that Malik and I first interacted on 4 years ago. And then also, I again, we joke about it. Haha, look at him. He's old. But I'm the only one who's old enough to have experienced those peaks live. Like, I was old enough to understand what was happening in the moment as they were happening.
Right.
And number one, I mean, I'll just lay it to you like this. Walking down the halls between classes at school, you walk by 30, 9, 10-year-old boys in the hallway and look at the T-shirts they're wearing. 316, 316, 316, 316, 316. Oh, man, there's a Rock shirt. 316, 316, 316. So in the moment when they were wrestling at their peaks, the global impact between The Rock and Stone Cold, nowhere close. Nowhere close, because people looked at Austin and saw themselves. People looked at Austin and his struggles to rise above his station and his struggles in dealing with a boss that he hated and his struggles in wanting to be himself, but everyone else wanting him to be somebody else. People looked at Stone Cold and saw themselves. You didn't see that with The Rock because The Rock was confident in who he was. And The Rock didn't deal with all that stuff that Stone Cold dealt with in his stories. That's number one. And number two, when The Rock did finally reach that global impact and get to a point where everyone was wearing his T-shirts and following him on Twitter and all that stuff, it was because he went away and made movies. That was the Rock's entertainment peak is as an actor, not as a wrestler. And again, just looking back and thinking about experiencing those peaks live, Austin and The Rock together were magic, absolute magic, lightning in a bottle. We've already talked about it. We'll probably never see something like that again. But just being old enough to be aware of things that were happening in the news and on television and references on television shows, turning on a TV show in the afternoon and seeing someone shotgun a beer into their mouth or wear the 316 shirt or whatever, it's just Stone Cold's cultural and global impact that he was able to make just by being a professional wrestler, except for maybe John Cena, will never be felt again. Whereas The Rock's peak didn't really start until he stopped wrestling and became an entertainer first, an actor first. Now, you could argue that was because Stone Cold was there taking away his shine or whatever, and there's a conversation to be had there. I think the conversation of where does The Rock's career go if Austin isn't there is a super interesting conversation on a number of levels. But facts being what they are, I tend to give Stone Cold a big nudge because his cultural impact happened while he was in the ring. And it's just as simple as that.
Mo, go let you go real quick.
I think you explained in the beginning, Malik. I think it's the gap has just always been that the fact that Austin was the bigger draw. And I mean, there's a reason why Hogan's still in these conversations is drawing power. I think that's all it is, to be honest.
But you don't feel like you don't feel like Rock is right in there?
No, he's right. So I have, in terms of peaks, just peaks, not including like your entire career, just peaks. Like I have Austin, Roman, and Hogan at one table, and then there's like these other, and Cena, and then there's these other peaks here. I think Rock's right at that next table, like the next level down.
With Shawn and the Undertaker and
it's not like a clear. It's
right.
not
So
like
you don't think Rock is sitting at the same
but
table with those guys for the peak?
No,
He's
not
not
no,
quite.
even
Not
though it
quite.
happened at the same time. No, he's not sitting.
Not quite. Nah.
And I think
Here's
that's the
another
thing
thing,
that
too.
other people can. Oh, good.
See, that's where I disagree, though. I think he is.
Here's what. Here, I'll explain it. when Austin went out in '99 because of his neck, right? Rock ascended to number 1, right? Second, Austin comes back, he's number 1 again. That's just
Was he though?
that just
Talking
says
about
it all
01?
to me. Oh, 01? Yeah. Rock went out to film Scorpion King.
I mean, he did for half that year, but I feel like Rock, when you're looking at peaks, Rock reached a level of peak that was, I feel, life-changing to where that's where you want to get. Like, you want to get to that level. Like Austin, Hogan, Cena, all those guys reached the peak that I feel like everybody should want to strive for. Not everybody's going to get there, you know what I mean? Because it's wrestling, so it's selective. But, like, that's the level you want to get to. Like, you want to get to that highest point. When we talk about Rock, like, for his career, the reason people had him in those conversations was because of the peak. He didn't have the longevity. People put him there because of that peak. Before Roman had his peak and all that stuff. Like, when people were talking about top 5 at one point and Mount Rushmore's, Rock was in that conversation strictly because of his peak. Now, yes, Austin was the bigger draw. You know, Austin was the guy who made WWE more money than anybody, you know, and like Jade said, it would be an interesting conversation if, like, Austin wasn't there. How would Rock's career be? Maybe it would be looked at differently. I feel like, though, a part of the reason why people took him out of that conversation goes to what Jay's point said, is because he left and went to Hollywood. Austin was forced out because of injury, so he had to retire. Rock left because he went to Hollywood, and that was shown how people were upset about him. If you go back and look at that Lesnar match when he fought Lesnar, they were booing him because they were mad he was leaving. They felt that he was betraying them. They felt that he was, at that time, turning his back on wrestling and going into the Hollywood aspect. That's how people felt at that time frame, from what I've heard people explain. Like, they felt Rock was selling out. He was moving on to something else. He was still in his prime, you know, as far as being young at that stage, so he could have went another 10 years if he had wanted to. That's why I feel the conversation has changed for Rock in that aspect, because anytime I've had conversations with people and I've always asked, well, why do you take Rock out of that conversation? They always said, well, he left and went to Hollywood. I'm like, that doesn't really, that's a dumb tax. That's a dumb take for me personally. Like, you tax him because he left and went to make movies. That still doesn't change what he did in wrestling at that time. I'm not saying he did it better than Austin, but I just feel like when we're talking about peaks, I feel like for me, he does sit at that table with Cena and Roman and all those guys. Yeah. Not saying he's had better peaks than those guys, but he reached a level of peak that you're not going to point out that many people have reached in WWE.
So I know G hasn't gone, but let me respond to that real quick. I don't necessarily knock The Rock's, if we were scoring him on his impact or his peak or whatever, I don't necessarily knock him for going to Hollywood. But what I do say is that if he hadn't gone to Hollywood and forced himself into the front of minds by shifting careers and really going Hollywood, I think his peak had something to do with the fact that he went to Hollywood, quite frankly, and got himself at the forefront of everyone's minds. It's kind of like in a movie where you have going back to the lunch table analogy. By the way, G, someone in chat said Brett belongs at the table with Roman, just so you know. It's kind of like a movie where you have the rich kids table where kids sit there whose parents were rich going in, they've been rich all their lives, they're tycoons, right? And then you have someone whose parents hit the lottery out of nowhere, and now he's rich and wants to sit at the rich kid. Technically, he can sit there because he's rich, but it doesn't feel the same as the other guys. And that's where I'm at with The Rock. When I look at Austin and Cena and Hogan's peak and cultural impact, it feels more organic and it feels more weighted because it mostly came as a professional wrestler. Whereas I feel The Rock had to go away, become an actor, get some of that heat, and then bring it back. And then he was able to set with the rest of the guys.
I do feel like realistically, The Rock is the biggest superstar in wrestling history when we're counting Hollywood and wrestling. Like, that is a proven factor. Like you said, his Hollywood stats have made him a bigger star than what he is.
I think Cena's getting there, but I think The Rock is still number one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like for me, the best way I can explain it, when Rock and Austin had two elite peaks that, like, when Hulk Hogan came back, you had two options for that match at WrestleMania. You could have Austin, big monumental match, Rock right there, also big monumental match right there, right? Like, these are two matches that you can make, but you got to pick one. You can't have both. Obviously, they went with Rock and everything, but Rock and Hogan was like a huge monumental thing. They could have went with Austin. When Rock came back and 2011, there was only one guy we looked at that he had to face, and that was Cena. There's nobody else on the roster that's gonna create this type of magic with Punk. Yeah, maybe, but like, there's only one person on that roster that we looked at. It's like there's only one person at that same level as Rock that he could possibly make that match with, and that was Cena. When Hogan came back, there was two people on that roster that you could make that match with to have a huge monumental sellout WrestleMania match, and it was Austin and it was Rock.
Cammy Bills, I'm sorry, you're in chat. You're absolutely wrong. But the Scorpion King was a huge freaking deal. The Scorpion King
Was the game plan not before
deal when it came
2011?
out.
Gridiron Gang. Now maybe
yeah.
okay, maybe you could say maybe box office wise, like I don't know how many box
What?
office movies Rock had before that, but he still had movies that were, like Jade said, that were a pretty big deal. Scorpion
2011
King was
is
pretty
crazy.
big.
Scorpion King was huge. It was huge.
2011 is crazy.
Everybody watched the Scorpion.
But let me say this real quick. Somebody in the chat, James said in the chat, Austin was protected more than Rock. You wouldn't see Austin fighting Bulldog on pay-per-view during his peak, for example.
That's crazy.
Well,
but he's not.
I mean, people who are crowned
That's a
as,
fair point.
no, people who are crowned as the kings of their eras, Cena, Austin, Hogan, they're going to have some Roman. They're going to have some level of protection. That's just the way that it is. Wrestling hierarchy has always been, there is one guy at the top, and there's only room for one guy up there. Now, the next level can have as many guys as you want, but that top level of the pyramid, there's only room for one guy up there, and that one guy has historically been Hogan, Brett for a short time, Austin, Cena, Roman. Those are the guys. So everyone else can exist. They can get as high as that second level.
The closest it ever got was Rock. I will give that.
Was Rock.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
the closest it ever got to being two people at the top. And then for a while, even though it didn't last as long, Batista was also kind of like, oh, maybe.
He was,
but it's
And
usually,
Cena lapped him.
there's one.
But The Rock of anybody in history did come the closest to making Austin share that top pedestal. Because I don't think Orton never came close to Cena. Macho Man never got close to Hogan. You know, no one ever got close to Brett when he would. So, yeah. I said for a short time. I said for a short time. Dude.
I was like, that's logistics.
Maybe Sean not. Yeah. But
Sean,
anyway,
yeah.
The Rock came closest.
So I got a question for y'all. So, and when we're talking about peaks, Impact is a part of, like, when we talk about peaks, right? That matters, right?
Yes, I think so.
If we're gonna give the crown to one guy, if you were gonna give the credit to one guy specifically on who was the reason why WWF, turned the ship and then won back the war, who would you give that credit to?
Austin.
It has to be Austin.
That
It
might
has
be
to
it.
be.
That might
It has to be because
He does
because
get credit for that too.
This kind of sounds.
Austin's the first
tad
guy.
bit
Rock
nasty.
is the second guy right there.
I was
But
like,
that's
so
not-
let me not.
Just real quick. That's my
I'd say
point.
it's
In
Vince.
that
I'd say
conversation
it's
would be interesting. Maybe if
The
the
second.
Rock, maybe if Stone Cold isn't there, the Rock is able to lead that
Maybe.
charge. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, it was Austin.
Well, I actually wanted to ask that question. Is like, let's say Stone Cold never becomes Stone Cold, and Triple H does win that King of the Ring that he's supposed to, and doesn't cut that Austin 316 promo and just take off. I'm not saying the Rock couldn't have
That's a
succeeded,
weird WWE.
but I'm not saying the Rock couldn't have succeeded. But does Rock really hit that pedestal that we think he does, or that he did rather? Like, I feel like Rock, and that's why I was gonna say I feel like Austin was kind of always over him, because I feel like Austin kind of became Austin like organically, and even though the Rock still got over organically, I think him being able to play off of Stone Cold, I think helped him more than like if Stone Cold wouldn't have been there, right? Even though Stone Cold had the Brett match and all that stuff, it was really King of the Ring and that promo he cut. I don't even remember who he beat. I think it was Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake.
Yeah, like that was kind of like the.
I think though Rock.
That
I personally think Rock could have been at that level because I don't know if you know the backstory. Vince wanted The Rock to be his guy. He was never supposed to be Stone Cold. Like when they changed him from Rocky Maivia, put him in the Nation and everything, they already had plans to make him a superstar. So it's already been proven, people who they like in WWE who have, a look like Roman, for an example, too, Cena, like they always make those guys stars. But Rock was a Vince guy. Austin got over organic, like you said, where he became the bigger star, where obviously they went with him. But Rock, I still think, would have been able to succeed. I don't know how they would have done it in that time because Austin was the perfect babyface for Rock to feud against after he won the title in '98 for the Survivor Series tournament for that WrestleMania upcoming. So he was that perfect heel for him to feud with. But I think The Rock showed that he had all the credentials, though. He was charismatic. He was super entertaining. Like, he had the credentials for that spot, which not everybody can fill. You know what I mean?
And I don't disagree with
talents,
that. I don't think that. I'm sorry. I don't disagree that he picked him and that he wanted Rock to be a star. Again, I think Rock would have still been a star. I just don't know if we view him the same way. Because I think having the Stone Cold to go against, and Mo also kind of mentioned that you might get onto it right now. I also think Vince is second as far as how WWE, the whole turn the ship. I think Montreal Screwjob and Vince having to be.
Well, yeah, Vince turned the ship, but he wasn't bigger than The Rock. I don't think.
You could argue
in terms of who
helped lead to flip the script.
That feud is
that's what I'm saying.
That feud in
by the time Rock won the WWF title, WCW, I think that was after WWE started to win again, and they never lost again.
Yeah, by the time.
So you saying The Rock was front runner?
Low key. I don't want to make it sound like a negative because he was amazing.
That's funny.
But low key.
What did he say?
I said The Rock was front runner.
What was the date when WWF won and never lost again? Let me find this out.
I think it was '99. I think that was the Mick Foley one, right?
It was the day.
Was it the Foley
win?
Yeah, that was '99. That was in January.
So really, we could say Mick Foley might have had a little.
No,
bit
people do not give Mick Foley enough credit. No, really, you know
That
the person who doesn't get enough credit is Tony Schiavone, or at least Eric Bischoff. Because Eric Bischoff had scouts at that show and told Tony to spoil the event. And people loved Mankind so much that when Tony Schiavone sarcastically said, "Oh, why don't you flip over and watch Mankind win the world championship? That'll put butts in the seats." They did. And never looked back. So I think Eric Bischoff and his call to make Tony Schiavone say that is underlooked.
It's also kind of like unfortunate because they had been doing that for forever,
right?
And it usually worked for them. Like it was the one time it did it.
But they underestimated how much people loved Mick Foley, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
people loved.
Nobody
Mick Foley.
Probably expected The Rock to lose the title on a regular episode.
So the last time WCW won was October, okay, and Rock won the first WWF title in November. So
that sounds like a front runner to
me. What did he say?
I said that sounds like a front runner to me.
So Rock kind of picked it up after it was kind of planted to
after
ass.
It was like, you know what I mean?
And then the finger poke of doom just made it like nailed the
sound like a front runner.
Yeah. After the finger poke of doom, it was done.
Finger poke of doom.
I watched that whole episode of Nitro. That shit was so stupid, bro. Oh my.
Finger poke of doom is really what killed it. But I feel like for me, like I said, Rock was he was never too far behind for me when it came to Austin.
No, not clear.
Austin has had the popularity. That's what just puts him over all time. It's just the popularity. The popularity was just unmatched. You know what I mean? Like it's not many. We'll probably never see somebody get to that level again at the peak. You know, at the highest level.
Here's also, and this is why I wanted to get into a little earlier on, right? Because you asked like why you feel like maybe Rock maybe isn't at that table anymore, or why you feel maybe the Rock came down. I feel like only one person has really brought the Rock down at this point, and I feel like it's Roman. I feel like that's the only person, realistically, because I don't think anybody, and I'm saying most people, I don't think most people are going to make an argument for Triple H over The Rock. I don't think most people are going to make an argument for Edge or Randy or any of these other guys. So out of that top five, the Cena, Taker, HBK, Austin, and who am I forgetting? Cena, Taker, Austin, Rock, and HBK. The only person that I feel can knock him out is Roman. Or the only person I feel like out of everybody else that would have knocked him down is Roman. And here's why. When you really, really break it down, when we talk about peak, with every context that we add in, Roman, I think, is giving us some of the most intense, in-depth, layer type storyline, especially what we know. And let's just be real. I think Marvel really, when they started to take off, was really a catalyst for more people starting to do this. The fact that everything ties into something else that happened before. That was Roman like pretty much the first 2 years. Everything tied into something. Him just having a match with Jey Uso and saying that there was consequences felt like it meant something when we all knew Jey Uso wasn't going to win that match. Not a soul thought Jey Uso was going to win. But we were so invested in like, how though? And what consequences? Oh, he about to be out the family. That was really when we really started establishing what exactly a tribal chief is, and not just a little catchphrase or a nickname. No, tribal chief meant something. You look at the storytelling he did all throughout. I really talk about the first 2.5. The first 2.5 years of his reign, the in-depth layered storyline where everything mattered and everything tied in to a specific moment, or everything tied in to an event that happened in WWE that we can all say changed the landscape, aka Seth turning on the Shield, aka suffering succotage or the dog food, right? We look at that, and that was really like, that was the first time in a long time where you were invested not only in the match, not only in the result, but every single promo, every single word, every single backstage segment. So much so to the point SmackDown was literally built around, okay, we have 7 Bloodline segments. Where can we fit everything else in? We have 7 Roman Reigns segments that are going to dominate the entire show. We need to fit everything else in between them. Then you take into account the degree of difficulty to make people care during COVID. That was granted, nobody else had ever had to deal with that, but nevertheless, that was a really bad time. Like, we didn't even know if they were going to continue. Let's just be blunt. If Vince wasn't cool with Donald, they would have been shut down. Literally, he had to get permission from Donald specifically in order to keep that going. The fact that, I mean, y'all remember they had Nia Jax being possessed by Alexa Bliss. Mm-hmm. They was doing the cut scenes where Lily all of a sudden was a real dog. Like, they was throwing everything. That was probably the worst time to watch WWE since pre-Attitude Era. And the fact that he, and I specifically say he, because I know people to this day who used to make fun of me for still watching that stuff, that now hit me up talking about, yo, you see what Roman was on? You see what my tribal chief was on? I give him that impact for that. His impact in that time frame, yes, we had the Baileys. Yes, we had Drew McIntyre's cooking. Yes, Sasha, and we had all these MVPs during COVID. Don't get me wrong, I'll take none away from them. They weren't doing what tribal chief was doing. And then when we came back, he's still giving you elite type work, right? He went to part-time a little later, we know that. But that first 2.5 years, that impact that he did, that's an anomaly. Because realistically, that shouldn't overtake Big Dog the last 2 years, 18 and 19. I don't think 16 and 17 was that bad, but 18 and 19 was atrocious. 18 and 19 was atrocious. It shouldn't overtake that. It really shouldn't. But I don't think it's like, oh, when you had that bad and you had this great, so it evens out. No. I actually feel that Bloodline stuff not only overtakes it, but it pushes past it. That's how I feel. That's why I feel like
from the record. Yeah. Strikes it from the record.
Strikes it from the record. That's why I feel like, bro, if realistically, if someone still had Rock over Roman, I feel you. I understand your arguments. I really even wouldn't argue against you so much. I would just tell you I disagree. Because even though The Rock, great first time, did what he did, popular as hell, all that stuff, I personally don't think, just looking at what Rock did and looking at what Roman did in their peak, I don't know if anybody ever had, I don't know if The Rock had the audience in the palm of his hands the way Roman did. I don't know if Rock had like I don't give a damn what the tribal chief saying. Everybody and their mama is fearing for Jey Uso's life.
So
fearing for Jey Uso's life.
Let me jump in here, because something you alluded to that I think deserves more attention is how the Bloodline stuff changed WWE programming and storytelling for the foreseeable future. Like how many times on Raw, SmackDown, and even NXT nowadays do you see a scene going on in the foreground, but then other conversations happening in the background? that then make you wonder, oh man, I wonder what's going on back there. That was the Bloodline that did that first. I honestly don't know if Cody Rhodes comes back to WWE at all, full stop, if he doesn't look over and see what the Bloodline is able to do and the types of promos that they're able to do. Because Cody's promos are so in-depth and so story-focused and so emotional when he's telling a story. And before the Bloodline, it really wasn't like that at all. It also made it okay again to have a faction, because for a long time, factions were taboo in WWE. Even when you had a faction, they didn't want to name it. It was almost like that WWE didn't want to commit to it. But that peak, and I'll tell you what, we're talking about peak. And again, this isn't an original thought. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on TikTok. I don't know if a peak gets much better than Roman, Paul, Sammy, Solo, and the Usos coming out, all the gold, with Samantha Irvin, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa, and then I don't know if a peak gets much better than that, honestly. Honestly, it was just so different, and it changed how we saw WWE storytelling for the foreseeable future. And that's why when people ask me, how could you put Roman top 10? How could you put Roman top 5? It's because when you change the industry,
Exactly.
see Cena, see Austin, see Hogan. When you change the industry, regardless of what you do for the rest of your career, you are immediately catapulted into a top 10 position. And then everything else that you do is just cherry on top. The Royal Rumble win, the championships, all the WrestleMania main events, the 1,200-day title reign or whatever it was. All of that stuff is just cherry on top of the sundae when you change the industry. And Roman Reigns and the Bloodline changed the industry for a long time.
Also, too, shout out my guy Lewis, bro. You just got here. Like, we went an hour and 20 without talking about it. Like, you just got here.
Yeah.
like we did. Like, we was talking about a lot of other different things. But my last thing I'll say, like I said, Rock, I get it. I won't trip about it. But you kind of said it, Jay. Like, to me, that Bloodline stuff changed everything about the way they book now. I think even though The Rock was super important, never going to take away, I don't think he changed the industry the way Roman did. And he brought fans back. Like, whatever you want to say about it, Roman Reigns brought fans back, especially during COVID. I don't know about y'all. I unfortunately did not miss an episode. I've said this multiple times. I'll say this again. If I didn't stop watching when the dog food got spread over Roman Reigns, I was like, there's nothing that they can do that'll make me stop watching. Like, I was also into The Fiend. I am one of the few people that actually liked the Bray Wyatt Braun Strowman story they were telling, especially when he went back to OG Bray Wyatt. I was hooked. I was like, man, I wish this was.
Right.
The story was good. The execution was
good. The execution was bad.
I will say that the two stories that got me back watching full time, like I never fell out with WWE, but 2019 I wasn't watching like consistently every week, but I watched all the pay-per-views. Like I kept up with it. But the two storylines that got me back to watching every week that I was interested in was the Bloodline story and the Randy Orton Fiend Alexa Bliss storyline. Like I had to see what was going on with those two stories. I had to see.
Those two was crazy. That's why I'm saying, like, I definitely. Oh my gosh, she almost did it again. I definitely like the fact that he brought fans back, and not just a couple of them. No, he brought some old fans that wasn't watching, and he brought some new ones with him. Like Let Mo go
real quick.
Yeah.
I spoke my piece on Roman. People think I'm a hater. I'm nope. Y'all cooking. I'm gonna let y'all keep cooking. Nope.
Nobody say you're a hater. You just don't. You don't view it the same way as everybody else does. You don't outweigh.
Which is fine.
People genuinely think I hate Roman Reigns when I've been a fan of the guy since 2013. I'm no longer speaking on Roman Reigns. Y'all are cooking, and I agree with the majority of what you're saying. I'm leaving it alone.
And Roman isn't the only one who solidified possible Hall of Fame careers.
Yeah.
With the Thunderdome being a part of it. Asuka, I think her peak was during the Thunderdome.
Right.
Bayley's peak was during the Thunderdome.
Right.
Drew McIntyre's peak was during the Thunderdome. So the Thunderdome I always say wasn't as bad as people think it was. It just felt bad because of what it was, what was going on, and there was a lot of bad feelings happening.
You know what else how they peaked during the Thunderdome, Jay?
Who's that?
Nia Jax, well, maybe not Nia Jax, but Shayna Baszler for sure had her peak during the Thunderdome. Nia Jax maybe recovered when she came back. Nia Jax might have recovered, but Shayna Baszler during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So since we
this
talking peaks, I gotta ask y'all: will we ever see another woman reach a Becky Lynch type peak in WWE?
No.
We think we'll ever see it again?
No. You want to know why?
Because there is
because we have Rhea Ripley right now, and she ain't nowhere near where Becky was in 2018.
Yeah.
Cook more.
And she ain't nowhere near where Becky was in 2018.
Listen, Ronda Rousey, we all got sick of Ronda Rousey, and I understand that. But I think people they give so much credit to Becky for that WrestleMania build. But you guys have to remember, Ronda being in WWE was a huge deal. Ronda being a week-to-week wrestler was a huge deal. And before the crowd just randomly turned on her, I don't even remember what the reason was. And
she said something crazy.
Again, she's been saying crazy shit for a long time. But when she was over, she was maybe the most, until Becky, right, took over, she was the single most popular female star on the roster. More popular than Bayley, more popular than Sasha, Alexa Bliss, all of them. And the star power, now that star power
people are questioning this.
But
Jay, when you're done, I'm about to go off. Go ahead.
So
Sorry.
anyway, I just think the reason we're never going to see a female performer get to those heights is because I think Becky used Ronda as a stepping stone to get to that point. And I don't think we're ever going to see a female UFC star or a female actress or whatever be able to come into WWE with so much hype, so much natural ability, and so much star power. It was just the perfect storm. And not to mention the sequence of events that had to happen for that to occur, right? Because she was a heel at first, but it was the audience's refusal to admit that brought her around to where she was. Nia breaking her nose was not supposed to happen. And that added such a fuel to that story. It almost added a stigma, or it almost made that story supernatural in a way. When that image of Becky leaving the crowd with her nose bloody. And the fact that she hurt her knee right before. So now there's doubts of, is she actually going to win? It was such a perfect storm for Becky to be able to get to that point. And I don't think we're ever going to see lightning strike again. I just don't.
So,
all right, so
I have
go ahead.
I have three things I need to address.
Please do, because
first,
I'm gonna lose my job.
First, Jade. To continue on your point, a lot of people do this revisionist history when they don't like Becky Lynch, which is some of the most forced hate I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They try to be like, oh, her getting punched in the nose is what made her popular. No, her slapping the shit out of Charlotte Flair is what made her popular. Her breaking her nose is what made her nuclear.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Yeah.
That was what made her,
because when she had the arm bar with Ronda Rousey or whatever it was, everybody was going ballistic. It was like, hell yeah, Becky, whoop ass.
Literally was already the most popular person on the roster. It just made it ridiculously nuclear and undeniable. But second, people questioning if Rhea Ripley's peak has come close. Lock the fuck in, because we have spent 2 years on the show talking about how bad Rhea Ripley's title runs have been, how the stories are not connecting. We're not saying the same thing about Becky Lynch's peak. Sure, she might have the popularity, but peak in terms of quality, impact, and popularity. I'm being nice, G.
Sure.
G, I'm being nice. G, I'm being nice.
I would say Rhea has the popularity for sure.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Face of the company popularity.
That's we're talking about face of the company, but when we're talking in terms of just popularity, absolutely yes. Not even a question.
She can be.
I'll say that's close. I'll say that's close.
She can be at the table right below.
Rhea Ripley is probably like top 5 most popular superstars in the entire company. Becky Lynch was at one point.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch was one.
Becky Lynch was.
That's what I'm saying.
I was like, Rhea
can be at the table right next to her.
Yeah,
no, Rhea's very popular though.
Rhea's never been the one. I'm talking about in terms of just popularity. Yes, Rhea Ripley has reached that.
I just think it's a different kind of popularity. I don't.
There's got to be 4 things I got to address.
Yeah, Rhea just never reached. Rhea has never reached
these comments. I'm sorry, I love y'all, but
Rhea's never reached the. Hold on, everybody's talking at once. Rhea's never reached the peak that Becky's reached as far as being the face of the company, which is what separates. I agree. I don't know if we'll ever see a superstar reach that Becky Lynch peak, because there's nobody else that you could point out who was, you could say it for a woman that was the face of the company. Even though you could say 2019 was one of the worst years ever, that's not Becky Lynch's detriment. That had nothing to do with Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch wasn't booking the show. Becky was one of the very few good things about 2019 in WWE with that storytelling and that peak. Rhea Ripley has never reached that peak where she was wholeheartedly the face of the company. She's never been bigger than Roman. She's never been bigger than Cody at any point at the time. Now, in terms of popularity, just strictly reaction-wise from the crowd, I will say, yes, she has reached that. Rhea Ripley is going to go down as one of the biggest, most popular superstars for women we've ever seen, like ever, in terms of wrestling. She gets crazy reactions. But she's never been the face of the company. Becky Lynch, for a year, was the face of the entire WWE over any man, any woman for an entire year. For from maybe late 2018 to end of 2019, you could say, or before she left in 2020?
Say from Survivor Series 2018 until she left to start a family, she was the face of the company.
Yeah, so for like that to like little year, about a year and a half, a little ish around that time.
Yeah.
So like,
chat saying some crazy things about
wild shit. So people say I'm not gonna give her credit for being the face of the company in the worst year, right? Can you say that about any woman at all? No? Okay, then great. Next.
But hold on, I just want to ask too, with that same logic, if you're not gonna give Becky Lynch credit, supposedly for being the face in one of the worst years, are we gonna do the same thing for Cena in the PG era? The PG era, 2010
was fucking terrible.
2010, 2012, WWE, not that great. We ain't gonna tax John Cena though for that because he was still the face of the company during that time frame. So if we're gonna use that same logic for Becky, are we gonna apply the same logic for Cena, or are we gonna do the same thing for Bret in the mid '90s when he was the face of the company and the entire roster was, gimmicks of dumpsters and hockey players and shit? Like, are we gonna tax Bret for that too? Like, there's gonna be bad periods through WWE's time frame, you know what I mean? But that doesn't change what that individual does just alone. Becky Lynch's impact is literally unmatched. For a woman,
Don't even.
For a
That
woman,
was so nasty.
For a woman to say that she was the face of the company, it's unheard of. You never in your lifetime would have ever thought you would have said something like that, compared to what women's wrestling used to be before Becky Lynch took off in that time frame, or even when the women's revolution took off, when women's wrestling was starting to get better with Hell in a Cell and with everything else. Like, you never would have thought you would have even said still that a women's wrestler would be the face of the company, especially over any guy.
I mean, and it wasn't even supposed to be Becky.
And then people talking about
they didn't want her in that spot. Yeah,
someone's questioning if Becky Lynch has ever her good matches. What are we doing?
I told you.
I'm not an encyclopedia like Malik and Mo sometimes are, but I know off the top of my head she's had bangers with Asuka, with Lyra Valkyria, with Bianca Belair, with Rhea Ripley. Like, give me a break.
Even Charlotte.
Give me a break.
Chat,
even
I love
Charlotte.
What the
she
fuck
gave Tiffany her best match
and
today.
for the person who said Rhea gets bigger reactions than Becky in 2019, I'm gonna need you to go back and watch some videos, bro. There was nobody.
I think it's close.
And this was in the middle of Kofi Mania. This is in the middle of Beast Slayer Seth Rollins. Nobody in the company was getting bigger reactions than Becky back then. None. Zero. Zilch. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Just go back and watch the videos. I just can't. You just have to watch. If you can watch those videos and still say what you're saying, then you're lying at that point. You're lying.
I will say, like I said before, I will say for me, popularity wise, Rhea is the closest thing we've ever seen popularity wise for a woman superstar to get to that point. Like, Rhea Ripley's reactions are pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
They are.
Becky Lynch though was also pretty crazy.
Chamberlain comparisons kill me, man. My goodness.
That's honestly what just separates it. Rhea's just never been the face of the company. She's never been number one in the company. She's never been the face, number one superstar, head and shoulders above any man in the company. You could say woman for sure during that time frame, but she's never been the face of the entire WWE. Becky Lynch was the face of the company. That holds a lot of weight. I don't think some people can fathom and understand how huge that is, especially for a woman to have that, like, to be the face of the company.
So let me ask a question before we get out of here, because I see the time. Let me ask a question before we get out of here, and I wish I would have asked before Jay left. Peak for peak, who y'all taking? I just want to check the temperature. Chat, you can answer as well. I just want to check the temperature. Peak for peak, who we taking? Rhea Ripley or Bianca Belair?
Bianca Belair.
Bianca.
Quality is just is
Okay, cool.
comfortably
I
better.
just wanted to check the temperature. We good.
Quality is
Bianca
comfortably
is-
better.
Honestly, the only thing Rhea is missing that Bianca has is just that good championship reign. It's the only thing Rhea
That's it.
doesn't have under her resume. If she had that good championship reign, the conversation would be a little bit different right now. It'd be closer. But
I don't think Rhea has a story close to Becky and Bianca.
Yeah, Bianca's had just better championship reigns, good on top of having good matches and good stories. Rhea's had good matches and good stories, before they got ruined and everything, but she never had that good title reign that stood out like, that championship reign.
And Rhea's never 1v3'd a whole faction before.
That was insane. I was
1v3.
laughing so hard.
By the way, chat, I appreciate y'all. This is the first time I feel like we as a chat,
I'm
as a
proud of
whole,
y'all.
had some
There you
conversation.
go.
I'm glad.
Not even close. There we go.
I
Keep
just
it going,
wanted to
chat.
check
Good
the
shit.
temperature. I just wanted to check the temperature.
Proud of y'all.
Yo, stop playing with these nigga, boy. Oh, he dropped that.
This nigga
Ow.
So that's honestly what separates it. Now, if Rhea ever has a good world championship reign that stands out, then we can
here.
revisit the
That would be a
conversation.
different
but we can't-
conversation. Exactly.
We can't have that conversation when Rhea's never had that good title reign. That just holds her back so much. Like her title reigns have either been mid or just bad, like in general.
I agree.
Yeah, I just wanted to check the temperature. Unfortunately, I just saw the comment. Bianca,
Well,
the
Drake
highest
winning.
she'll ever be, the highest Bianca will ever be is number 2. Matter of fact, I have her number 2.
I have her top 2 all time already.
She's 2, but she'll never
Top
be
2?
1. Nope, I have her
Yep.
2. I have Bianca 2.
Yep.
But she'll never be 1, and that's because Becky. She was the GOAT. She was literally the face of the company. Becky's number 1. There's nothing Bianca can do unless becoming the face of the company and having even a better title run than Becky did at that time to put anybody above Becky. Unfortunately, when Becky became face of the company and
I
became
do
the
think
only
Bianca's
woman
title
to
reign
main
is better, I
event
ain't gonna lie.
a one, I knew this thing was gonna miss, and became yeah, bro. Of course he missed the field goal because why wouldn't we fucking make the field goal? Once she became face of the company, bro, I was like, bro, there's nobody else.
That's a good point. Somebody said her and Damien was solo in Judgment Day. That kind of was.
Yeah.
Her and Damien, it wasn't a 1v3 though. It was
She was kind of doing it by herself too, though.
it was
for a minute.
Liv.
Yeah.
It was Liv.
She
It
was.
was
She
Liv
was.
and Raquel, who was the worst bodyguard.
That
in
was
history.
the ongoing.
Ironically, until she
Were
got with
Mickey in it?
Roxanne.
That was
Mickey again?
that's it's kind of Mickey because that was the ongoing arguments on social media. Like, really making Rhea look too strong. Like
Damage Control was presented better than Liv and Rhea was. I mean, living
barely,
Raquel were.
barely,
The bars in hell,
barely.
like you always
It's
say.
not too far. Like
Mm.
barely being presented.
Okay, but Io,
Oh, actually,
Dakota,
that was the
and
first 2 months,
Io and Dakota were tag champs,
Yeah,
right? They
good point.
and Bailey had just came back off of the COVID popularity.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm taking that over a Liv who was just wasn't even looked at like what's it called, a top star at the time yet. We were still
Nah.
telling her she needed to fix her character, and we was arguing with people on this show
This is
telling us to go off.
This one was the
about
world
some Liv
champion.
Morgan.
He was the world champion at this point.
No, she wasn't.
Yeah.
Was she solo then? No, she wasn't.
Yeah, when Rhea was beating her and then Liv Raquel, yes, she was the world champion.
Well, then she wasn't solo. If you talk about who was the world champion, Rhea or Liv?
When Liv was talking about when Liv became champion and Rhea was
Well, she
constantly-
wasn't solo with them. She was losing. She wasn't solo with them. She was losing.
She was
Bianca
getting down.
didn't
She was
lose
looking-
once.
she was looking more dominant though. That's what people were saying. She was looking more dominant than the
What that
actual
mean if
champion.
you lose? What that mean if you lose? I'm talking. Bianca didn't lose. She was 1v3 and getting the pin.
Bianca didn't lose, yeah, but we're saying like
Oh.
Rhea was still
Yeah.
looking more dominant than everybody in Judgment Day. That was the argument going on social media. Like, why is she soloing the group and she's the only one she's by herself? She ain't no help.
She wasn't really soloing though, because again, she was losing. She lost at SummerSlam. She lost the rematch until she finally got it back at the end of the line. She wasn't soloing them. She lost a couple times. And stupidly, might I ask, you too good to be losing to that. You too good to be Bianca literally
bad
in a
blood match.
TLC match. Bianca literally in a TLC match. No disqualifications. Soloed all 3 of them with no help. No Damien by her side. No help. 1v3 these women, bro. And she 3-peated Bailey. She beat her 3 straight times.
which shocked the hell out of me. I thought Bailey was at least getting the ladder match, but when she
That's
didn't win the
what
ladder match, I was like,
that's what we all thought too. We were like, okay, ladder match. This got to be the one, right?
Yeah.
and nope,
Nope.
belt to ass.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. That was she almost made Damage Control feel like the Nexus, bro. Like almost. Like almost, bro. She almost, bro.
Damn near.
Nobody took
Damn
Damage
near.
Control seriously after that. Not a soul. And then
They
they added
pretty much
Oscar
were.
to
I
the
mean,
group. And then they added
right.
Oscar to the. They added Oscar to the group just for Bailey to turn babyface on him. And as soon as Bailey turned babyface,
It was
she
dead.
soloed them niggas 1v3.
That group was dead at that point.
Io only got revived because she went to Raw and did that Queen of the Ring tournament. That's the only reason Io got revived. But Io as champion,
Twice
me
over.
again. Me again. What's her feud?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I forgot about that.
Because it was a forgettable ring.
So what's your guys' before we end it off? We clearly have established that we think peaks outweigh the longevity. Seems like
Yeah,
majority
y'all
of the
move me.
conversation.
Yeah,
Who do you guys think have had? What are your top 5 peaks in WWE? Who you guys think have had the top 5 best peaks?
Ooh.
Doesn't have to be in order.
I know
Top
4.
5 best peaks. So off rip, I'll probably say Austin. I'll say Cena. I'll say. Ooh, hold on, because I want to.
Are we going in order or just name the 5?
I was just
Name
naming
you name your
5.
5. So
Oh,
let's-
Becky's in there though. Becky's in there. She has to be.
You haven't over Hogan?
I'm not counting Hogan, man.
Oh, bro.
I'm not
we're doing
counting
this.
that. R.I.P.
Doing
But I'm not
this.
counting it, bro.
We're doing this.
Bro, okay. If you want me to count him, I can. But like, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't counting him when he was here. I'm not gonna start switching.
That's crazy.
Like R.I.P. I obviously I don't want that to happen. But
So Mo, who would be your top
I'll
5
be-
peaks? Top 5 greatest peaks.
Oh man. So 4 I know for sure is Austin, Hogan, Roman, Cena. Number 5 though, I might just have to go Rock. Just WWE, right?
yeah, this is gonna be
Yeah, then yeah, Rock.
I saw somebody mention it earlier. They talked about could we rate Kurt Angle high? If we counted TNA, Kurt Angle would be a top 5.
I got Kurt top
No,
15.
no
but that's
questions
about it.
asked. Kurt Angle TNA.
Oh yeah.
Would be a top 5 peak, no questions asked.
What's your top 5 peaks then?
Austin, Cena, Roman. I can't not put Becky after all the stuff I was just talking. I can't not put her there because degree of difficulty to me matters. You're the face of the company as a woman.
That's
That
a
alone.
fair point.
That alone. The 5th one, man, I could put Rock. I could put HBK.
I got a
I
name
wanted
who's having a crazy peak right now. I ain't gonna lie.
I can't put the top 5 though. I can't put the top
Hey,
5.
he's having a crazy peak right now. I'm not gonna lie
He'd
to
be
you.
top
It's
10, but I
incredible,
can't
bro.
put top 5
Yeah.
right now.
Top 10 for sure. Top 10.
Because I really want to put HBK's there because his second peak. I
Oh,
really want to
man.
put it there.
I can't say
and
8 years is a peak, man. That's too much.
no, but I just
It's very
honest-
consistent. But I just-
honestly though, but like I'm not gonna lie. I really want to take
Here's
the
the best.
4-year Undertaker peak though. That's what I really want to do.
That's a good cook. That's a
I
good cook.
really want to take the 4-year Undertaker peak. That's
Streak
what I really
Taker?
wanna do. Streak Taker was ooh,
That's a good cook.
Take
I like
care.
it.
ooh,
Like that peak.
I might have to take that, bro.
Man, those
care that
matches
you-
are just
I
ridiculous.
don't care that he was here 3 times a year, bro. I was hooked.
Didn't need to be. Didn't need to show up.
Yeah,
all
I
that
feel
much.
Like depending
Didn't
on
need
depending on how long Cody's peak lasts, he might be pushing those conversations, bro. Like
I think it ends
Eventually.
I think the peak ends in 2027, and then he'll just be like regular. He'll still be a top guy, but like
you know how many
that's when you'll start seeing him winning the world heavyweight title.
Y'all
That
know-
might be where we get a heel turn. That
a
might be.
crazy stat. Y'all know since coming back to WWE, he's never lost a match clean.
Yes.
That don't surprise me at all. That don't surprise me at all.
Even back
Yeah,
for 4 years, bro.
That'll change once he turns
3 or
heel.
4 years.
Because I think he's turning heel in 2026, man. I think he's turning
That's
heel in
fine. I mean,
2026.
I think
He's gonna have that peak
my-
heel run till 2027, and then he'll go back to regular.
it's not going to last long. Yeah, I think my thing with Cody, like my hesitation on why I think they should hold off,
Mm.
is I feel like I think they need to hold off until they have somebody that can take his spot and do what he's doing as the top babyface. If they have
would
that,
say-
I'm good.
I would say
ahead.
for me, somebody mentioned Brian. Brian had a really good peak. Punk Punk would have been in there if they didn't ruin it. I feel like they messed that up, but
Yeah,
They messed it up in like 2 months.
I would have said that too.
2 months.
Yeah, bro, you losing.
honestly, I had to say
losing the
both.
Triple H and the champions.
We're talking the best peaks. I had to say Hogan, Rock, Austin, Cena, and Roman. Those would have to be the 5 right there.
Nah,
That's the 5, bro.
I mean, I understand Hogan. I'm just not gonna. I wasn't ringing him before. I'm not about doing that.
Those
The niggas
5.
So, hey, let's get it. Why not Bruno San Martino, man? How long was it before he lost? How long he held that
Relative
title?
to era top 10. Relative to era top 10.
I mean, realistically, if you're gonna do that, then you got to put Moolah in there because she was champion for 30 years.
Fuck no.
Who's beating her? Nobody.
Hell yeah! I mean, come on,
She was holding everybody hostage.
Come on, man. 30 years.
What are we doing?
You know how good you have to be over for 30 years straight, 3 decades.
Moolah don't
That's
have
2
Bruno
generations.
Impact.
That's 2
Moolah don't have
generations,
Bruno
bro.
Impact. Come on now.
That's 2 generations, bro.
I don't give a fuck.
No,
You didn't lose for 2 generations.
Congratulations. Mickey.
Now
Mickey
it's
Mouse is crazy.
But when I get into this Bret Hart,
At least Bruno, I can actually explain his
his
impact.
song-
At least with Bruno, I can be like, this is his
and-
impact.
Shoot, when it comes to Bret Hart, and I talk about his impact and who he had to go. with
Why?
and the
See,
couple
y'all
guys.
bring him up. I don't see.
Yeah,
see
now
chat,
it's
y'all see
not
this. I
Mickey
don't
no
bring him
more.
up.
Then it's
Y'all
not
bring him
Mickey
up.
no
I
more.
never.
Now
I
it's
never
not
bring up
Mickey
Brett.
no
See,
more.
I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing about
Nah,
Brett.
but you talk about
Y'all
Mickey
brought
this,
him up.
Mickey that. I'm just saying, why not? You feel me?
If you feel like it's a little Mickey, go ahead. I don't.
I'm
Well, I do to some extent.
All right. I'm just asking questions people want to know.
I mean,
I always want to hate on Brett, man. Leave him alone.
yeah.
Actually, Brett, can you stop talking sometimes, just please?
Yeah, he makes
The
it
shit
really
I'm
easy.
seeing.
He makes it really easy. When
To
he's
hate.
like,
I
I've
understand
never thought Triple H had a great match. Nigga, what? Yeah, all right, brother.
He
Yeah,
had
all
one
right,
with you on
Yeah.
Raw. You.
like, all right, brother.
Somebody said
Come on,
Cody's
Brett.
way above Becky's peak.
All
Way
right, guys.
above-
Hey, appreciate y'all tuning into the show. Y'all follow,
No, I
like,
agree.
subscribe. What? No, it's not. No, it's not.
Co-
No, it's
Cody's
not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
That's what
Way
it is.
above Becky?
Way
Way above Becky? Hell no. 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 Bro, I'm gonna say this.
I really have to sit
Get
here
off
and think
the-
about it.
I do not think people. Hey,
You
clearly,
think, hold on, Mo, you think it's close?
Do I think it's close? So, okay, peak Becky is what, 2018 to 20. When she get pregnant?
2020.
until she got pregnant. So right
Okay.
in COVID. Right when COVID
And we're
started,
talking
that's when
about
she got pregnant.
2022 to now.
to present Cody. To present Cody.
I think Cody's had better stories. Cody's had better matches. The impact of his peak, I think. Ooh, but Becky, what she did for the women's division.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Oof.
I don't like
Oof.
clearly by this chat, I don't think we're understanding. Bro, she was the face of the company as a woman in a company who historically did not care about women. We talk about this women's evolution. Yeah, it started with Team PCB. She was clearly
NXT.
bro. She was made, bro. I'm not gonna lie. The way WWE treats The Rock, bro, where do you think the manhandle slam came from? When she started using that, like that's straight from The Rock. That's straight like
My
here's
dear
my
self.
blessing because you're the biggest star in this company. Here you go. Like I'm not gonna lie, no disrespect, especially when somebody says way above, ridiculous as hell.
Yeah, that feels a little bit
But,
wrong.
bro,
but
I'm not gonna lie, you cannot deny that she literally was the face of the company, and then as a woman, main eventing the only one night WrestleMania. Like, yeah, now that we got these 2 nights, even though a main event still holds a lot of value, the women always get you ain't now. If
you
a
move
woman
Brock
comes up
Lesnar and
here,
Seth Rollins out
if
the
a-
way. Like,
if a woman comes up here and main events a 2-night WrestleMania, all right, cool, we got some conversation.
yeah, like
We
they
can
have night
some
2.
conversations. If you
Yeah.
get the main event for night 2, because we all know realistically, night 2 is still that's where you're going to put your biggest draw. That's where you're going to put your biggest draw, right? Roman, Seth, and CM Punk could afford to be in night 1 because it was Cody and Punk. If that was Cody and Drew, I promise you, Roman and them main event night 2. I promise you, if that was Cody and Drew or Cody and Kevin, but because it was Cody and Cena, all right, cool. We can give Roman and them night 1.
Cody, honestly, realistically, Cody's going to be a night 2 main event until they do Rock and Roman in Saudi Arabia. Other than that, I don't see him moving out of that night 2 spot for a while.
Well, because I mean, realistically, he's probably if Punk does not win this world title off of Seth, which I still think he is, it's gonna be Cody. You know what I think they should do? Realistically, you know what I think they should do for real? Just to avoid any plot holes and any problems. They should just do Cody Punk and Roman Seth. No. I'm sorry. They should do Cody Roman 3 and Seth Punk because you can fight over that world title and you can do the Universal. But if we do Cody Punk, that means most likely Seth is going to hold that world title going into Roman. And I think if Roman and Seth fight, Roman needs to win. And I don't want to see Roman with the world title. And it's not in Roman's character to relinquish the world title. And if he wins that title, he's also not losing relatively quickly. So there's a lot of issues that come about that. So
are we sure? No, just one.
Maybe. Bro said that doesn't matter. It's not bro said it doesn't matter. It's not a woman conversation.
Oh, I immediately read that and thought bot and stop paying attention.
It's not a woman conversation. That's my point.
Meat Moot.
I'm putting her in the top peaks of all time, men included. That's the point.
Cody's number one movement in the world for a while. So Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch had the same. She had a number one.
Okay. Yeah, you know, you're right. You're right, Mo.
Meat Moot.
Is this where we do our outro? Our little mini outro? Is that when we do it?
Let's do it.
Is that when we do our outro?
It gotta be, yeah. It gotta be.
Okay, hey, appreciate y'all for tuning in. I think we ended right on time today. Well, from when we started, we usually go like 2.5 hours. Now we're 2 hours. Appreciate y'all. Y'all like the video, comment, subscribe, share the video to your friends. Tell them that No Name Wrestling is the best place to get some good wrestle talk on the internet. Follow the socials. Hey, if you can't listen to us live, make sure when you do watch us again, you like the video. Then listen to us on Spotify, man. Follow all the socials. You know what it is, Mo, Malik. If you want to be a G-Maniac, y'all know the number 1-800-G-Maniac. Man, we here. On the way to episode 100. We 11 away, guys. We're 11 away from 100. 11 away, man. That's what, 4 weeks under 2 years? Because 52 weeks is a year. So we almost about 2 years doing this, man. 2 years. 2 years. We got episode 100, man.
All right, man. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the pod. We'll be back next week. Make sure you guys look out for all the episodes that are going to be updated. They're on the channel, as you can see. If you go to the channel,